And welcome back, everybody, to yet another sports podcast with your bearded brothers. I am Bearded Brother Matt.
I'm Chris.
And we are here again to talk to you about the wacky wild world of sports. Been a lot of angry stuff over the weekend. Been a lot of news in the sports world. Been some interesting news. At least one piece of funny news, in my opinion, that came out of the NHL. I don't know where you want to start, but, works with me.
Wherever you want to start, I mean, there's...
You know what? Let's start with a laugh.
Okay.
Recently, because the NHL is coming up on All-Star Weekend. So, Commissioner Gary Bettman, whom we ranted about last week, if you haven't seen that, go back and watch it. Commissioner Gary Bettman came out literally the day after we recorded the podcast. Somebody asked him about tanking in the NHL. And his reply was that teams in the NHL don't tank.
Yes, no one
Because
tanks.
it's not because of the way we do our lottery, it isn't worth the couple of percentage points for all the losses you would accrue. And I would tell him, have you seen your teams? I don't think you actually pay attention to the sport you're the commissioner of.
Every single sports team in any sport has moments where they end up tanking for one reason or another.
Now, I do believe he prefaced it with players and coaches or something like that.
Yeah, players and coaches probably don't intentionally,
No, you're absolutely right. Players and coaches absolutely don't believe in tanking. It's bad for the players. It's bad for the coaches to be involved in that. They absolutely don't believe that that's a thing. NHL GMs, on the other hand.
Yeah, same thing with the NFL. Like, you know that there are teams that are set up to fail. And they're set up to fail on purpose by the GMs because they know that if they get mediocre players, that there's a pretty good chance that they're going to lose most of their games. And while the players and the coaches are going to play to win, because that's what they do, that doesn't mean that they'll have success. So
that is very true.
Yeah.
But you can tell the teams that, like, we're going to talk about a team today that is in the middle of rebuilding. We talked about one that's pretty much completed with Buffalo. During Hockey Corner today, we're going to talk about one that's in the middle of it. I'm going to go through, like, how many draft picks they have and the few players they have that are worth holding on to. And at least one of those players I know is going to be traded because he's been talked about. I wanted to talk about the trade deadline, but I want to do more than 10 minutes worth of research on which players are likely to be moved at the deadline and which players are being talked about being moved. Because there's at least one player I know that gets talked about, but his contract is so large and cumbersome that I honestly don't think they're going to find any takers for him. Right. And that's my personal viewpoint on it. But That's a whole other thing. But yeah, Gary Bettman just proving again that he is utterly out of touch and should retire and resign and let somebody else take the helm because I don't think he knows what he's doing. He should let a young pup take the helm, somebody who understands marketing, because we talked about that. He has no idea how to market the product that he has. He doesn't understand the product that he's in charge of. I think he just likes the money and he likes being in charge. The problem is you're actively hurting your own product. And I think at some point you need to step aside and realize that somebody else could do better for the product than you.
Yeah.
But that would require a set of self-awareness I don't think he has.
Also true.
So, all right. After that, you know what? Let's talk about the two pieces of Dallas Cowboy news that came out.
Okay.
Because there's really two pieces of Cowboys news. I don't know if you saw the new one from this morning.
I saw the one this morning, yeah.
Okay. So the first one is that Dan Quinn, after interviewing for several head coaching positions, has turned them down and decided that he will return as the defensive coordinator to the Dallas Cowboys. He is not going to take any other jobs. It sounds like he's happy in Jerry World. It sounds like he's happy with McCarthy.
They're probably paying
It sounds
him a
like
lot.
he's happy with everything that he has there. And he doesn't want to go anywhere else, especially after what happened in Atlanta. I think that might have put him off of head coaching for a little bit.
Well, he did pretty well in Atlanta for I don't know how many years he was there for, but he did pretty well.
A couple of years, and then he tanked hard.
Now, granted, he didn't tank. It was that GM tanked him. Especially after the whole rumors with Ryan being possibly moved to try to get Deshaun Watson. The minute that came out, that was pretty fucked. And then, yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Because you know Jerry, Dan Quinn's probably getting paid pretty well for a coordinator. He might not be being paid head coach money, but when you're thinking about being a head coach, there's a lot more responsibility. So, and you're more likely to be in the light of getting fired or at least taking the heat more often.
Exactly.
So, in his position, he's probably getting paid pretty decently, and does he want the more responsibility, especially with the opportunities that are available for him? Are those organizations he wants to go to and deal with? Yeah, probably not. It's probably just easier to stay where he's at for now. Chill with a guy that he already likes, not have to worry about all the responsibility, and get paid okay to do it.
So on the other end of that, though, Kellen Moore and Dallas mutually agreed to part ways.
Mm-hmm.
So Kellen Moore is out as the offensive coordinator in Dallas, despite coaching the second highest scoring offense this season.
Mm-hmm.
And he has indeed agreed in principle to sign on with the Chargers in their vacant offensive coordinator position.
Yeah, I just saw that. It actually just popped up 4 hours ago.
I think that is brilliant, personally. Say what you want about Dallas's offense. I don't think that falls on Kellen Moore in any way, shape, or form.
No, not at all.
I think it falls on Dak. I think it falls on how they play on the field. The fact that he coached them to really high scoring seasons and playing really hard. Can you imagine
That's what I was gonna say.
Kellen Moore is going to do with Justin Herbert and Mike Williams and Keenan Allen and
like as much as we've been shitting on Brandon Staley. Staley. I'm just gonna say Staley because I think that's close.
Staley is correct. Like
okay.
stale bread with an EY on the end of it.
I don't know why that's so hard for me. As much as we've been giving shit to him saying that he should be fired, I think this is a good pickup to at least cover his ass. Because if that offensive coordinator, if he gives the offensive coordinator the play calling duties rather than himself, and allows him to actually run his offense through Justin Herbert, I'm just saying that could be majorly successful. Because I hate to say it to people who might not disagree, especially where you live down in Texas. I'm sorry, Dak is not as good as Justin Herbert. He's just
not anywhere close. And the funny part was there was already a blurb from Skip and Shannon about this, and Skip was like, I don't agree with them letting him go.
No, yeah,
I don't think him biting the bullet for how Dak played was fair.
Yeah,
Skip actually said that, and Skip is the ultimate Cowboys homer, so he realizes that this is a mistake.
Well, yeah,
but he also realizes that Kellen is probably going to be way more happy in San Diego, or pardon, LA now.
LA now, yeah.
The Los Angeles Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be way more happy in LA than he will be in Dallas. He won't have Jerry breathing down his neck, and he won't have to watch Dak screw up his plays and things
constantly.
Like that. Yeah, so that's kind of a, they're happy about that. Two former Broncos head coaches got jobs this week.
Yep.
First off, we should probably start easily enough with Nathaniel Hackett. The last Broncos head coach did get hired as the offensive coordinator for the New York Jets.
Yeah, I don't know if we brought that up or if that happened after our last podcast.
That did happen after.
Did it happen after? Okay, I couldn't remember.
It happened after. I rewatched our old stuff.
Oh, okay.
And we did not bring it up.
Okay. Yeah, it's not. So I think we had talked about that possibility.
We had talked about that being a possibility. That's why you remember that, is that we had I had said and you had said, what would be interesting is for him to go and like coordinate for the Jets or something.
And this also feels the Aaron Rodgers trade rumors to the Jets hardcore.
Exactly. Now, I will say that I don't think that makes any sense. We'll talk about that.
I actually disagree with you, so that'll be fun to talk about.
It's not that I disagree with Aaron Rodgers going there. It's that cap-wise, it makes no sense for the Jets.
I also still disagree with that, but we'll talk about it when we get there.
I'm going to say this right now. How much cap space do you think the Jets have?
I don't know, but I know that they just got an increase in cap space.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because they are still 2.1 million over the cap.
That's easy. You know how easy that is to
yeah,
adjust
but they
with
also have
contracts.
a buttload of free agents to re-sign, including George
Yeah.
Fant and several other pieces.
Sure,
so
there's plenty that they can make
there
Walker
are
trade
some
away.
things they
I
have
think
to do. They
Yeah.
would have to make some major adjustments in order
I
to
don't
get
think
Rodgers.
it would be. I don't think it'd be as major as you think it is, personally.
I do.
Just because of the way
we'll
that
go through the list
yeah.
of teams.
Listen.
with the
If
most
we
cap
can
space,
keep,
because that's something I want to do.
if we can keep most of our team by just adjusting contracts, like people say that we can, the Jets can easily do it too. So let's not.
So I actually do want to ask you, who do you think has, just real quick, because we'll get into it, because I actually want to do a segment on it. Who do you think? What team has the most cap space right now?
The team that has the most cap space.
Yes.
I know the Panthers actually have a pretty good amount of cap space. I don't know if they're the most.
They're not.
I know the Texans, I think, still have some cap
Nope,
space.
they're like 6th.
Okay. Well, that's still not bad, though. I wouldn't be surprised. Would New England have cap space? I mean, I don't know if they're paying that many players.
I'll give you the number. They
getting
have 98 million in cap space.
Okay, that's fine and all, but that's not going to help that much, actually, because I had to think about teams that aren't paying a lot of veterans, like, because that's probably what it's going to be, right? It's going to be a team that's not paying a lot of,
full of young players.
Yeah, that's why I was saying, like, Jets have a lot of young players, but I know that they have still a couple quite heavy veterans. I know that Buffalo has recently been paying a lot of their players, so that's not going to be it. Kansas City does have young players, but they're paying pretty heavy.
Hint 2, they're in our division.
Yeah, I mean the Lions and the Bears both are.
It is the Bears
are paying pretty low amounts at the moment. Yeah,
it's.
So I was gonna say the only
Bears
other
have 98 million.
The only other ones that I could think of besides the Panthers, because I know the Panthers are actually a pretty young core. I'm pretty sure Seattle, I think, has mostly a young core, but I could be wrong on that.
Yeah. No, it is Chicago. Chicago has 98 million. We'll go over the teams that are above and below the cap right now.
Yeah,
or under the cap and over the cap. Because it's a pretty good split.
Which is pretty typical, actually.
But yeah, so Nathaniel Hackett does go to the Jets. That does fuel the Aaron Rodgers speculation. Yeah. I do think I like the idea of Rodgers in the Jets. I don't know how much sense it makes. Based on.
I mean, if you just look at the team and you look at, like, they have a good offense line, they have pretty good offensive weapons, they have a really good defense. I mean, if you just in general, you could look at the team and you go, yeah, that's like an ex-Packers team just missing the QB.
But
that's what I'm saying. On paper, just looking at the sheet. Now, granted, obviously, some of those you might have to.
Okay, the Packers won at least 2 first-round picks for Aaron Rodgers. On top of which, then you've got to pay him. So who do you let go of, and how do you restructure things, and who do you not get re-signed because of that?
I think the majority of the team.
So my thing is always, how much of your future are you mortgaging for right now? Because the Rams did this, and then they collapsed immediately.
Well, here's the thing.
Like, they got the Super Bowl and just.
I think, just to do a quick thoughts on it before we do a full on talk about it. Basically, I think that while yes, they'll have to give up a lot in draft and they might have to give up a decent amount of money, I don't think it'll actually hurt their future that bad, because the people that they'll move off of are people that they were probably going to move off of soon anyways, and a lot of their young rookies are the ones that are big, right? I mean, Sauce Gardner is one of them. You think about their running back who ended up getting injured, but he was really good before he did get injured. I mean, they have a good young core that even after Rodgers is gone, you're still going to have that young core.
We'll go over well, you know what? When we talk about Rodgers there, we'll go actually over where the money is. Yeah. And we can talk about it.
Yeah.
All right. On top of that, we did say there were 2 former Broncos head coaches. Vic Fangio is all set now to become, or has already become, the defensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good move. I think Fangio's always been a pretty good defensive mind. He wasn't a very good head coach, but he was a very good defensive coach.
Yeah, I mean, I have thoughts on that, which is, just to be blunt with it, he was a decent defensive coach and decent defensive mind, but I think people blow it way out of proportion if you look at the teams that he ended up having, the defensive players he ended up having quite often.
Yeah, he did have a lot of talented defensive players. So This, I think, will be a challenge for him.
Yeah.
To see if he actually is a good defensive coordinator, because he doesn't have the mega superstar sack players that he had when he was a defensive coordinator at other positions.
So all I'm going to say is I think the Fangio system that you see people come from, there's a reason why it's a 50-50 ball chance. Like, either it's going to work spectacularly because you have the right personnel, or it's just going to look like crap.
Exactly. All right. Then we do have a head coaching hire. The Panthers have hired Frank Reich over temporary coach Steve Wilkes.
Steve Wilkes, yeah.
I thought Steve Wilkes looked good with that team, and I think I would have wanted to give him more of a chance. But by the same token, Frank Reich has looked really good when he's had the right pieces. Mm-hmm. He's not exactly a bad head coach, and if you are planning to try to draft a quarterback or grab a quarterback, a young one in this draft, having somebody like Frank Reich to bring them along, I think is a good thing to have.
I think Frank Reich is a very good head coach that got done dirty by an organization that kept trying to do a QB carousel, and he got kind of fucked by it.
I agree. And he brought in right at the very end of Andrew Luck?
Yeah, pretty much. He was like right at the end.
Yeah.
And then you also have to remember too, like people are like, well, but he made the decision to play Sam Ehlinger over, whatever, right? Well, that's because he knew that he was in a position where he just had to Hail Mary something and go, hey, this is a young kid. I want to try out the young gun because I want to train up the young gun. And the organization, when he did that, was like, what the fuck are you doing? That's why he got fired pretty much the week after that.
Mm-hmm.
Because they didn't agree with it.
Like that decision.
Yeah.
But frankly, you weren't winning games with Matt Ryan, so why the fuck would you stick with him?
Yeah.
I agree 100% with where you're coming from on that. I do think he got done pretty dirty.
But I think he wanted to train in the new gun. He could go into the Panthers. He's going to be able to train in a new gun like he wants to. Like he originally wanted to with the Colts. He's going to get exactly what he wants, and now we're going to find out, can he actually do it?
Exactly. Now we're going to see just how good he can be about that. All right. It is reported through sources that DeMeco Ryans is currently the lead candidate for the Texans head coaching job. For those that don't know, Ryans played linebacker for the Texans when he was a player. Mm-hmm. He's a good defensive mind. Considering the Texans' defense is actually pretty good and has some good pieces in place, this would make a lot of sense. He's aware of the ownership. He probably has a pre-existing relationship with them. I can imagine that whoever they bring in or whoever's there as GM probably knows that he's got a good in with the owner. I would hope that it wouldn't be a power struggle at that point, but you never know.
You never know.
But it does sound like they are going to potentially move forward with DeMeco Ryans.
Well, that is unless the Cardinals get to him first, because apparently he's also in the lead with the Cardinals. Or pretty close. He's one of 3 that are big in the Cardinals right now.
Exactly. And that's... So I think somebody's going to hire this guy sooner rather than later. I keep waiting for Eric Bieniemy to be hired somewhere, and apparently he does not want to be a head coach.
To be fair, would you want to be a head coach in this volatile environment? On top of that, if you can continue with building a legacy, learning behind Andy Reid.
Especially not if you have Patrick Mahomes that you can build around as an offensive coordinator.
Yeah. And on top of that, you have to be going, oh, when Andy Reid goes, I'll just take over.
Yeah, that's probably going to be what happens.
So,
and at this point, why would you do anything else?
Yeah.
On top of which, now we do have to say that apparently Jim Harbaugh is back in the news as the Dolphins owners flew to see him in Michigan.
No, Chargers. The Broncos.
That's what I said, the Broncos owners.
You said Dolphins.
Did I not say Broncos? Did I say Dolphins?
You did say Dolphins.
I meant Broncos. I'm so sorry. The Broncos owners flew to see him in Michigan to attempt to coerce him to come to Denver. And he has on the record saying that the Denver job is one he would be interested in. So the more and more we hear about stuff like this, it's beginning to look like Sean Payton is asking for too much salary and New Orleans wants too much in compensation.
I think the reason why the owner flew out specifically to Jim Harbaugh is they were trying to get Sean Payton. They saw what New Orleans wants for him and how much Sean needs to get paid, and they went, oh shit, I don't think we're going to be able to get that. And immediately went to Jim Harbaugh and went, oh hey, you still interested?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what happened.
Like that was a last minute going, oh fuck.
So also, then we're going to talk about real quick. He does look like one of the three candidates for Arizona is indeed Sean Payton. I don't know if they're going to go with him or not.
They very well
I don't
could.
know if they want to give up the compensation to New Orleans for him.
Well, if they can't get Ryans, and I forget who was the other guy.
I don't remember.
It was DeMarco Ryans. It was Sean Payton, and it wasn't Jim Harbaugh. Who was it? It was one other name there. Brian Flores. The Flores was the other big candidate for Cardinals. So if they lose out on DeMarco Ryans to Texans, which I think is actually more likely to happen, just because of his ties there already, and if he's going to want to try to bring that organization out from the dirt, like it's going to be somebody like him who's already got respect for that organization, which a lot of people don't have at the moment. So then that leaves him with only two, which is Brian Flores and Sean Payton. And Brian Flores might not want to be a head coach after all the shit that he went through with the Dolphins. He might actually end up taking on like a defensive coordinator position, say possibly with the Vikings.
Exactly, and especially he might not want to be a head coach for an organization as volatile as Arizona looks to be right now.
Exactly. So, in all honesty, their big play might be just having to bite the bullet to get a Sean Payton and hope that he can turn Kyler Murray into a real quarterback.
Exactly. Because the problem you're going to have with somebody like Flores is, does he believe Kyler Murray is that quarterback? Because remember, he was famously wanting Herbert over Tua.
Yep.
Which,
to be fair, he technically on paper was the right call. Actually,
so far in their careers, that's been absolutely the correct call. So does he believe in somebody? Because Tua and Kyler are very similar in a lot of fashions. So I don't know if that's a quarterback he wants to work with.
Mm-hmm.
So he might very well go to Minnesota as the defensive coordinator and just wait for a better head coaching position to pop itself open.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a hot take on some of this later, but we'll talk about that. I've got a hot potato for it, but we'll figure that out later.
Yeah.
But no, that is something that we wanted to talk about a little bit there. Now on to some of the player news a little bit. There have been rumors and sources that have come out from the Dolphins camp that have said they are not interested in Tom Brady.
Heck, they basically came out and implied that they're not interested in any quarterback that enters, regardless of who it is, and that no, we're sticking with
Tua. Very much so. There, as far as I can tell, there is a love fest between the owner of the franchise and Tua. I don't know what it is, but he's absolutely convinced Tua's the guy.
And I'll make an argument here. Tua this last season here, looked really good with good weapons around him, which is what we always said Tua was going to need. That he's very competent. He's above average QB, but if you want him to take you places, he's going to need a little extra help in wide receivers, which they did. But now they need an offensive line to keep him from getting fucking constantly concussed.
And a running game.
Actually,
if you could get a running game.
Actually, the
like Mostert isn't bad. But
who's that young kid they have? They have a young kid that's actually pretty good.
I don't remember. If you could get was
it Drake? I don't think it was Drake, was it? They do actually have one running back that's actually really good, but the problem is that he just ends up getting injured too much.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is you need to find yourself like a primo style back, like a Derrick Henry or something.
I mean, that's a bit aggressive, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, well, even just a
Dolphins,
useful back.
Do you need a Dalvin Cook?
There you go. That actually, to be
honest, work.
That would really help the Dolphins a lot.
It would.
But
I don't think they have anything we want though.
No, nothing they'd be willing to give up anyway.
No, I was gonna say yeah. I mean, technically, it's like give us Waddle. I'll be happy with that.
Yeah, that's not happening.
No. Give us Tyreek.
There's some. I think they have a couple of pieces on the O-line that we wouldn't mind.
O-line. I think they have even some decent defensive.
They have some defensive players I would not mind
But
cornerback
again,
or something that I
yeah.
wouldn't mind getting my hands on.
But I think the odds that they're going to want to move off of anybody is pretty low, and it wouldn't make
Pretty
sense
low,
for them
and
to do
even
so.
then, we're not going to get much in the terms of draft trade either. So,
Yeah, so it just really doesn't make a lot of sense already.
And then the last big one came out of Packers camp. And the word out of the Packers organization is that they would prefer to move on from Aaron Rodgers. So it does sound
Unconfirmed still, but yeah.
that is an unconfirmed report out of their camp, but it does sound like if the right trade came along, which apparently will involve 2 first-round picks. Potentially, because that's what the asking price currently is.
Yeah.
That's what they're looking at. So, with that being said,
there are plenty of places he could go. The other thing that they said is if they do trade Rodgers, it would not be in the NFC. He would go to an AFC team. There's only a couple of AFC teams you can think of that would potentially make a play for Rodgers, right? You have the Jets who probably would try to make a play for it. Like even if you think on paper it might not make sense, or if you think that like the money doesn't make sense, I think that they would still try to make a play for it because they can. The other one would be Texans, but I don't know if he would want to go and play for the Texans.
I don't think so.
And then the other one would be Colts, but I think Colts, guys, you guys got to stop this QB carousel shit. Like, I think they just can't make that play. It just would look horrendous on paper for them to do so. I'm trying to think what other AFC team can you think of might make a play for it. Raiders? I think the Raiders would be a contender. I just don't know if they. I don't think they have.
They might try to do that.
I just don't think they have the draft capital and money to do it. I think they have even less than the Jets to make that work. But I could be wrong. I'll admit that. I could be wrong.
All right. So, that all being said, where it's being said.
Oh, it's doing it again. I'll just leave it alone. Fuck it. It's just going to look weird.
Let's go ahead and talk about real quick the rumor of Aaron Rodgers to the Jets and how much sense it makes.
Okay.
So, let's start by breaking down the Jets' current salary cap situation. So here's who they currently have and the big contracts they currently have. He's currently signed up at $21.476 million.
Gotcha.
Laken Tomlinson, offensive guard, $17.3 million. Carl Lawson, defensive end, signed at $15.3 million. Now, the good news about Lawson is you have an out.
Mm-hmm.
If you cut him post-June 1, 2023, he only costs you $333,000 to cut.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, to be honest.
So I honestly believe they're going to cut him and move on.
Yeah.
DJ Reed, cornerback, $14.1 million. Jonathan Franklin Myers, defensive end, $12.3 million. Dwayne Brown, left tackle, $11.2 million. Corey Davis, wide receiver, $11.16 million. The good news is, if you cut him post June 1st, he only costs you $666,000 in dead cap.
Probably another one they're going to end up cutting then.
It's entirely possible. CJ Uzomah, $10.3 million.
I'd move on him. He just hasn't been great.
If you could, because currently if you cut him, he's going to cost you post June 1, he would cost you, currently it's $11 million. At June 1st, it's $9.3 million.
Yeah, I was going to say there might be a way you end up trading him when you do the Packers trade, because
if you can find a way to package him to the Jordan Whitehead, safety, $10.2 million.
Yeah, you keep him. He's been good.
Yeah. Quinnen Williams, defensive tackle, $9.59 million.
He's been okay.
Zach Wilson, pardon. $9.586 million.
I assume it's the other Zach Wilson.
No, that's Zach Wilson, the quarterback.
Ugh. No. Fuck. No. You move off of that shit if you can.
The problem is, if you try to cut him, post June 1, it's $15 million to cut him.
That's why I said you try to move him if you can.
Tyler Conklin, tight end.
Maybe you can trade him with Aaron Rodgers. Go, hey, you guys want Zach Wilson? I'll give him to you. You can have him.
Tyler Conklin, tight end, $8.6 million.
So you keep him. I like him better than Osama.
Braxton Berrios, wide receiver, $8.2 million.
He's been pretty good actually, so keep him around.
Ahmad Sauce Gardner, $7.6 million.
You can't move off of him. Like,
Mekhi Becton, $5.8 million.
He's been okay.
Garrett Wilson, 4.6. Vera Tucker, 4.3. And then it just goes down from there.
Yeah.
But you can see, and then free agent wise, here's who they have to sign still. George Fant, right tackle. He's 30 years old.
Yeah, if you can get him back on a pretty low contract, I think he'll be fine.
3.3.
Yeah, that's not a big deal. Maybe a little lower if you need to, but yeah, you can make that work.
Connor McGovern, center, 29.8 years old. Market value, 2 years, $25 million, $12.5 million a year.
Yeah, their center has been pretty good. If you can do a restructured contract for a longer period of time with a lower cap hit, I think they'll try to make that work, I think.
Sheldon Rankins, defensive tackle.
Unless he's cheap, I don't think so.
2 years, $14.7 million, so 7.3 a year.
Again, if you can somehow lower him and accept it, yeah, but otherwise you'll walk, I think, on that one.
LaMarcus Joyner at 32 years old. Free safety. You're looking at 1 year, 4.1 mil, more than likely.
That's not terrible. That's not that bad.
James Robinson, he's going to be gone because they're not going to need him anymore.
No. Yeah.
Vinny Curry is going to be gone. I don't know if they're going to want to keep Quan Alexander or Solomon Thomas. Both of those guys are likely gone.
Probably.
Mike White is a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Yeah, but they still have Flacco on the books, right? Or is he walking?
No, Flacco is also a free agent.
So you let Flacco walk, I think that's obvious, and then you try to
re-sign Mike White.
If you can, for a good restructured contract of some kind.
Yeah. Dan Feeney, a guard. None of the other ones are really big. Mike Remmers, maybe.
But you see what I'm saying? Like, I think they can move around and restructure enough where they can still make an Aaron Rodgers trade make sense. And
Greg Zuerlein. Yeah, they'd have to. I think the big stuff they'd have to look at is C.J. Mosley's contract to see if they could. He's already got one restructure bonus. He's 31. Next year's his last season with them. He'll be 32.
They might look at restructuring him and signing him for
actually
another
2024 is his last season, and he'll make 17 mil again.
Yeah, so they might.
So he'll have a cap hit of 21.476 again. Yeah. At that point, I
have a feeling
they might try to trade him. They might try to hold on to him.
I have a feeling
that they'll getting a little older.
I was gonna say I have a feeling that if they can't do a negotiation for a restructure for this year, then they'll end up trading him. I think that's just the way that's gonna go. And then they could actually package him also to Packers. To be honest, when you look at what the Packers need, they need pretty much all of that, to be honest.
Yeah. Now, Carl Lawson is in his final year. He's 28. This upcoming season will be his final year with the team. And he was injured in 2021, and I don't know how good he looked in 2022. I don't know if he looked. Let me take a look at his statistics.
How much are we talking
from last year? 7 sacks, 32 tackles.
Not terrible.
1 forced fumble.
That's pretty decent.
That's decent.
If you can restructure it, maybe make it work. But otherwise, you might have to let
15
that one go.
15 mil is a little rich for that cap hit. But if you could restructure and extend him, great.
Yeah.
But otherwise, that 333,000 dead cap is pretty much where you're going to want to go.
Yeah, exactly.
DJ Reed is the cornerback. He was the guy who played across from Sauce.
Yeah. And he was pretty good. DJ Reed's not bad.
No, he's not bad at all. He wound up this last season with 1 interception, 1 forced fumble, and 75 tackles.
Yeah, it's pretty decent. Nothing amazing, but
no.
Again, if you can, how much is he right now cap hit wise?
$14.12 million.
And is he on his last year of his contract right now?
No, he's got this year and next year.
So you might, again, another one of those things where you might end up trying to restructure. If you can't, you might end up bundling him over to the Packers, possibly. Maybe. Especially because if you
Franklin
have,
Myers. Let me see. Franklin Myers is 27, and he is signed up for this year, next year, and the year after that. He will be a free agent in 2026.
I think you're stuck with that one then, unless you trade him.
Yeah, and his dead caps are his dead cap this year is only 1.2 million.
Okay, I mean they could cut him if they wanted to, but
next year though it's only 800,000.
Yeah, I think you just play it out. I mean, he's not bad. You play it out.
No, this last season he had 36 tackles and 5 sacks.
Yeah, you play that one out. That's not you keep
that one. I think he's good enough to play out. I think you're going to end up cutting Carl Lawson, and you're going to keep Franklin Myers around.
Yeah,
I think that's
pretty much what I was thinking. So I think there's definitely a world where the Jets make sense. And like I said, even after the 2 years, I don't think what they end up giving up is actually going to harm them substantially outside of getting a QB after Rodgers, which you might argue is that worth the direction that they end up wanting to go. Don't know, but it's definitely, I think, if they want to win a Super Bowl and they want to have two to three good seasons, you go for Rodgers now and go damn the future. And the future.
And that's what I'm getting at is how much of the future do you mortgage for that? And
I think the future that they end up mortgaging is not as bad as what the Rams did. I think that afterwards, even after Rodgers, they still have okay pieces. Like, it's not going to be amazing, but it's still enough where it's like it'll be a retool, not a full rebuild. If we're going by your terms, right? They just have to retool a little bit.
The other thing that I will say about that is part of that problem, though, and that process could be if you have to give up 2 first-round picks for it.
I know, and that's what I was gonna say. But even then, if you get Rodgers for 2 to 3 years, well, they're low first-rounders anyways.
Maybe you can give up like a first and 2 seconds or something.
Maybe, or like I said, a first, a second,
and a couple of players,
and a couple players like we mentioned already that they could try to move off of that the Packers need.
Yeah, that wouldn't be horrible. Like I said though, I get why certain people in New York may not want him because he is a bit of a diva.
Oh, of
and
course.
New York definitely plays into divahood. If you're gonna be when you play as a Jet, if you're a diva, it's just gonna exacerbate that situation.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you're really good and you're playing well, they'll be all fine with you being a diva as long as you're playing good. But the minute you start playing bad, you're going to get ripped.
And that's the problem is that Rodgers, if he plays bad in Green Bay, they're just like, oh, he had a bad game, or they'll make excuses. Oh, the defense didn't do well, or his receivers dropped too many balls, or it's not his fault.
Yeah.
The moment he screws up in the Jets system, they're going to eat him for lunch, and he's not going to respond well to that. I don't think he's got the toughness for that.
No, I think he does. I think he's just going to whine like a bitch while he does it.
And that's the problem, is that they're going to have a field day with him whining.
Yeah, exactly. But I think...
And that's going to be the problem. I think it's going to be a disaster.
But I think that's true.
Will it bring them a Super Bowl? Possibly.
And if it does, I'm just thinking, like, what other AFC teams would even make a play for him? I mean, you got the Raiders, which I just don't think have the space to make that work. And honestly, if Brady comes out of retirement, they're going to try to go on for Brady. So not out of retirement, but I guess could decide to come back. I guess that's a better way to word it. If he decides to come back,
here we go.
Most
projected cap space.
I just think they have to move around a lot to make it work.
Here we go. The Raiders have a projected cap space of $18.4 million.
Yeah. I mean, if they can restructure some stuff and not have to trade away pieces, maybe they can make it work, but I feel like they'd have to restructure or trade away pieces that they don't want to. And on top of that, if you're Rodgers, do you want to go there because that O-line is okay. They have some good weapons on offense, especially if you're linking back up with Davante Adams. I mean, obviously that's already there. But that defense was not the best that they could be. I don't know. I'm just a little concerned about that one, if that would even work. I feel like you're just going to have a fire offense with a weak defense again. Problems that
I agree.
Packers have dealt with over the last couple of years. So,
an interesting team, depending on what they do with their current franchise quarterback, Baltimore. They have $28.7 million in cap space. Depending on what they do with Lamar.
Yeah.
And maybe they do a sign and trade swap where they don't have to give up picks. They do Lamar, and actually Green Bay ends up paying them for Lamar by using Aaron and something to get Lamar out of them in a sign and trade.
You know, I'm just going to pretend you said any of that because I don't want to think about Lamar at Green Bay. So
I agree with you, but sadly it makes financial and it makes overall sense.
It makes sense for the Packers more than the Ravens. Like, Ravens, I think, are going to try to everything in their power to keep Lamar unless Lamar is really
agree,
pissed.
But if they can't, there's something to be said there. Indianapolis also has $11 million in cap space currently. They might be able to work something out. But
again, I just think the optics.
I agree. The other interesting choice.
The only other one I can think of is like the Texans.
No, actually, the Texans are there. They have $37 million in cap space.
They could make it work, but I don't know if he wants to go there.
There is a rather interesting team up here. Even though they already have a young quarterback, I could see the head coach and the owner making a play if they felt they could do it.
If you say Pittsburgh, I'll slap you.
No.
Okay.
New England.
I could see them making a play for it.
They have 38. They have a potential $38 million in cap space.
The only problem is that they would have to make that decision of, if we do this, we're saying Mac Jones was not good enough, and it's going to make it hard.
Or they're saying that we just want a quarterback now that Mac Jones can sit behind.
Mac Jones won't play ball with him when his contract's up. Then I promise you, he won't.
And he may not. And they may be admitting that we don't think Mac Jones is good enough. And it's really going to be on them to figure out what they want to do with that.
And here's the other problem, too. I hate to say it. The Patriots have a lot of other needs outside of quarterback that I think they really need to worry on more.
I agree with you. I'm just saying that the potentiality...
Out of all the teams that make sense for Rodgers to go to, Patriots doesn't make sense outside of, oh my God, we got another good QB. Right, their O-line has not been good. I mean, Mac Jones has been sacked quite a bit. Their defense is pretty much the only thing that keeps them in games, and even then this year was wishy-washy at best.
Yeah. So there aren't a whole lot of places if you're only limiting yourself to the AFC. Houston makes sense in a version of then they don't have to use their second overall pick on a quarterback, but you still probably do. That way you can sit him a couple of years.
Exactly. I think the three teams we've already outlined are the ones that are likely to vie for him, which is Jets, Raiders, and Texans. While Baltimore is a chance, I think the odds are less likely than the other three.
I 100% agree with you. I just wanted to throw it out there because if they are done with Lamar, and if Lamar is done, like
if they're done with the contract,
no matter how much, there's also the chance that no matter how much they want to keep Lamar, Lamar just says no, fuck you.
It's possible. I think Lamar has made it clear that he's willing to play ball with them. It's just for the right amount of money. There might come a point though where they just disrespect him enough times where he just goes, no, I'm done with this. I'm done with the contract negotiations.
And that absolutely could be. That actually could be a thing, and that's why I'm saying if that happens, then Lamar to Green Bay and Rodgers over to Baltimore. But then at that point, I think you're having to pay Baltimore to get Lamar in a sign and trade. I don't think you're going to be able to demand a price for Rodgers at that point.
And here's the other thing, like we've already talked about as far as Green Bay is concerned. I don't think that makes sense for Green Bay either in some ways because they have to finally admit that they're in a rebuild, and if they get Lamar, they're not going to do that. It's another good QB.
Don't at that point. They don't really need to be in a rebuild. At that point,
their O-line is trash. They have decent receivers that are looking okay, and that defense was much to be desired. I think
the O-line is a little bit trash. The defense does need some work, but if you wind up with Lamar, you're going to run a lot more, so your O-line can be a little more sus. You've got two big running backs that can pound the shit out of the ball.
I'm just more worried about what they have to give. Like you were saying, they're going to have to pay Baltimore. What would they have to? Yeah, but they're going to need those to bolster their defense and O-line. Like I get
or you can use some of that to free agency stuff like that.
Maybe.
But I agree with you. I think that would be a mistake for Green Bay, but I also think it's something that they would look at doing because they're Green Bay.
It's Green Bay. I would see them doing it, but it just legitimately on paper,
I wouldn't like it.
Doesn't seem like the best option long term.
No, it doesn't. But again, as much as I respect Green Bay as a rival, their inability to admit sometimes that they need to have a fallout and let things run their course and striving for excellence even when you can't get there is going to cost them.
Now, other news that I want to bring up since we're talking about trade stuff, which I think is interesting, is that the Bears apparently have stated that they are looking at potentially trading Justin Fields to draft the number 1 overall QB, which I think is an interesting prospect because even if they don't actually do it, this is very clearly them reaching out to reporters and going, hey, here's a rumor about this, and then the reporter is reporting on it, and now they want to see what's the interest.
They're gauging interest. Do the same thing.
Yeah, they're gauging
NHL
interest.
Teams do exactly the same thing. A GM will call a reporter, the beat reporter for the team, and be like, hey, so I want you to print that that for the right price, we might be able to move so-and-so.
Yeah.
And then now you can gauge interest. See what he's worth. And I don't think it's that they don't believe in Fields.
No.
I think 100% they're trying to figure out what's worth more, Fields or the first overall pick.
Exactly.
I think they're weighing them out to see how much they can get and which one would be worth more to people.
And I think honestly, I think that's interesting because Fields going to a lot of these teams actually makes sense for a lot of these teams on paper.
Oh, 100%. I would love him on the Vikings.
Yeah. I don't think that the Bears would play ball with us, but it would be fun.
It's possible. Depending on what you could get and depending on what you would demand, the Bears playing ball, like, the way I look at it, never say no even within your own division, especially if they're willing to give up the
I just think the odds are unlikely. But I think if you look at these other teams, I mean, think about it. Justin Fields to the Patriots, we already mentioned, like, that would work. Justin Fields to the Texans, that would work. Justin Fields to the Raiders, that would work. I mean,
that would be interesting.
If you just think about it, I mean, he's a younger QB who's got a lot of good upside that I think is more enticing than Rodgers outside. The only difference that Rodgers has is a proven track record. But I think
and if
Fields,
Tom is leaving Tampa, Justin Fields to Tampa.
Exactly. I just think Fields is more enticing in just simple fact of he's younger. He's looked really good this last season. I think if you put the right tools around him, he could easily be very successful. And you know that you're going to get him probably more long-term than you're going to get like an Aaron Rodgers, right? I personally think Fields would be more enticing than Rodgers personally. Of course, the difference that, I mean, think Justin Fields to the Jets, that would be fucking fantastic. But the difference that Rodgers, like I said, has is that he's got that star power, the known quantity versus potential quantity, right? So, but that's just my 2 cents. I think Fields potentially, being discussed as being traded is more interesting.
I think that's an interesting piece of news, if nothing else. Because I do think they're trying to play both ends for the middle on that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if it'll bite them in the ass, because I don't know how Justin's going to feel about that.
It could, yeah.
But as long as he understands it's business and they're just trying to see what's worth more to people, and they're trying, I think that by doing this, they're actually trying to drive the price of the first overall pickup.
They're doing that, but equally, because they didn't come out and say it, it's just been a bunch of reporters, Justin can be like, oh, what the hell is this? And they can go, I don't know what this is. This is just random rumors that they're coming up with.
Exactly. They're going to play that, and then on top of that, it'll drive up the price of the first overall pick because, oh no, they do want a quarterback. Here, take more stuff from me.
We'll give you more, exactly.
The Texans, especially. Oh, we'll give you more.
We'll give you 3 first-round picks.
Yeah, I think that's what they're actually doing. And you know what? More power to them. If you get what you can, give nothing back.
Exactly.
I think we're going to see the Chicago Bears on a roller coaster rebuild upwards very quickly.
Oh, yeah. No matter what happens.
All right. Now that the news is kind of over, do you have anything else?
Was there other news?
I didn't have any.
I don't think there was any.
That sounds good to me. Do we want to move into the playoffs?
Yeah, let's talk about the games. This is going to be a shit show, so we might as well get into it.
Well, let's start with the NFC because I think we're gonna have things to say, but we're gonna be less angry.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
That's fair.
All right. So Niners and Eagles. We both picked the Eagles. We were both correct, but we both have thoughts on this game. First off, Hassan Reddick. That was fucking Bush League, dude. Yeah. And if you don't know what we're talking about, basically, as he was trying to come in, it was like the second throw of the game for Purdy. Third throw, because he completed 2 passes.
Yeah.
Third throw of the game. Reddick comes in. Purdy's going to obviously get rid of the ball before Reddick can get there. So Reddick puts his hands up high and deliberately smashes into Purdy's arm. I can understand that he's trying to throw off the throw, but that's going to injure a player, which is what happened. I talked with my father about this. I've talked with you about it, and you've come up with the idea that it should be a penalty, the same as running into the plant leg of a kicker.
Yeah,
I agree. I cannot agree more. I do think it's a slippery slope, but at some point in time, you got to say you can't target the arm.
Yeah,
you can't do that. You're going to injure people.
You're going to injure the quarterback. And here's the thing: as much as people probably won't like it, the NFL has already made rules trying to protect the QB because they're the most expensive player for the franchises. Just straight up, they are. And also, you're going to get more exciting games when you have really good QBs in the game. It's just the way it is. And unfortunately, for those people who are like, but it's a sport. Well, it's also entertainment. And the NFL knows this. If your starting QBs who are making exciting games for you are getting injured because people are targeting the arms, well, guess what? They're going to make it so you can't target the arms anymore. It just is what it is.
But here's the thing. Let's ask a question about this. Because my dad brought this up, and I wanted to bring it up to you. And I should point out to people that it's because I'm adopted, so I actually have his dad and my dad.
Yeah.
So my dad I was talking to, and he brought this up, and I think it's an interesting point that we need to address. It doesn't matter. If you make it a penalty, 15, 20 yards, whatever, or you make it hey, you get tossed from the game for it, doesn't going to stop people from doing it. Because why? Hold on. If I can take out your best weapon, the other team's quarterback, if I can injure them and get them out of the game, even I'll take the penalty. I'll take the ejection from the game. I'll take the fine because I've just swung the momentum in my team's favor.
So sometimes that can be true, but there's the other point is then you could argue, oh, well then there shouldn't be any penalties ever. Because you can say the same thing about PI calls. But you 100%.
Still but I sometimes did want to bring it up because people are going to say it.
Yeah, I just think that's bitch made argument, to be honest, because if that was true, then there would be almost no penalties. Like running into the kicker, people would be like, fine, I'll just run into the kicker all the time. Or, oh, PI calls? Yeah, I'll just tackle the guy all the time, and who gives a shit if I'm just going to try to injure him and take him out. Like, there's a reason why that isn't a thing, because if they can prove that you're doing that, here's the problem, is it's not going to be just an ejection. It's not going to be just a penalty. It's going to be fines. It's going to be expensive fines. And it's probably going to lead to suspensions. And if you do it too many times, it's going to be you're out of the league, boy.
Oh, so, like Vontaze Perfect?
Exactly. So I'm just saying, like, there is a point where they will drop the hammer on you if they know you're doing it on purpose.
Exactly. And so that's the point, is that, you know, you make it a penalty so that way if you don't injure the quarterback doing it, it still helps the other team out, and it makes you think twice about doing it. Like, if you can't be sure that you're going to take the other team's quarterback out, there's no point in doing it.
Exactly.
It's a protective measure. It's not meant to be this will stop it at all costs. It is a measure to try to curb and reduce what we are seeing.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what we need to point out. That's what the penalty is meant to do.
Yeah.
It isn't meant to keep it from happening, because you cannot always keep it from happening.
No. Now, for those people that are like actual players or defensive players that are going to go, well, no, it's already so hard to tackle the QB because of all the penalties that they have on them. You're right. But the answer is pretty simple, and they've made it clear in training and the way they've done it recently. And if you notice that they're getting less and less penalties for roughing the passer because they're getting trained on how to properly tackle again, which is hit them in the chest or below. Don't go for the face. Don't keep your arms up high. And if you're going to keep your arms up high, make it clear that you're no longer trying to tackle. You're just trying to block the ball now. You can't then follow through with a tackle and hit them in the face. Like, you can't do that now anyways.
And fall off to the side, pull them down on top of you.
Yeah.
Because you're bigger than they are, and you're wearing a lot more pads, because quarterback pads are a lot smaller than frickin' linebacker pads.
Exactly. Like, there's just... I think there's just, like, people who are going to complain about it because it seems unfair. Well, frankly, if you were a quarterback, you'd think it's really unfair that they can just smack the shit out of your arm and try to break it all the time. So...
100%. 110%. I think that's something that's
now
going
the difference
to
that we have to make it clear as far as the penalty is concerned. It's when he's already arching back to throw the ball. If you get to his arm before he's even arching back to throw the ball, go ahead. You try to strip the ball out. That makes sense.
Oh, absolutely.
But if he's in
like,
the middle of his throwing,
like here, like
either by his waist or up high,
right
down
here, and I've still got it down by my waist because I'm holding it in that
or up,
QB hold,
or up here. Some people throw it up here.
Yeah. You know, some of them hold it up here. A lot more hold it down low still.
Yeah.
But you know, you've got that. You're kind of looking, and you've kind of got it right here, right about your chest area, and you're looking, and you're looking. At that point, that's still smackable.
Yeah.
The moment he comes here,
the minute it comes up here,
stop.
That's when you have to like just go for the chest, go away from the arm.
Yep, go away from the arm. 100%.
As much as possible, right? You know, I think that this is like the second. There's been several times we've seen this happen, but it happened to Mike White last year. It's happened now a couple times this year where people get smacked in the arms like that, and it causes either injury or makes it hard for them to feel their hands, and then they end up getting taken out of the game. And I just think there's a point where it's going to evolve from I can't feel my hand to oh my god, my elbow's broken.
Or I have to have surgery now because you caused super pinched nerve or something. Yeah. No, and so that's going to be the issue, and I think or a popped bicep, or who knows what's going to happen.
Or heck, if they get hard enough, pull their shoulder out of their socket.
So I think the fact that this is in the game right now, I don't think it's going to change next year. I think within the next 5 years, though, I think it'll be a penalty.
Yeah.
And I think that'll be something that gets looked at.
Because the thing is, you're starting to see a lot more. Because I was going to say, I think the reason why you're going to see it eventually is because we're starting to see, and it's been ramped up over the last 2 years here, but we see more and more defensive players doing that, trying to stop the ball's trajectory or try to strip in the ball out. And eventually, because it's becoming a habit that you're starting to see more, eventually the NFL will have to address it.
Exactly, and the NFL has been trying to get more and more into player safety. So that is something I think that's going to happen. But yeah, the Eagles do end up winning that game primarily because there's no Brock Purdy. And then Josh...
He bit me. Sorry.
You're fine. And then Josh Johnson got concussed. And Purdy had to come back in, even though he couldn't feel his hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, I do want to point out that reffing for the most part in that game was pretty good. There was just that like one call that was called a catch, and that shouldn't have been a catch on their first drive for their touchdown for the Eagles. It just wasn't clearly not a catch, but obviously the ref on the one side of the line couldn't see it very well. It should have been challenged, but the Eagles managed to make it up to their line of scrimmage and call a play before they had a chance to
before
challenge
the challenge
it.
could be challenged. And you know what? That
happens.
I 100% agree that is a thing that is in the NFL. Yeah. It is a strategy, and I do not say that is a bad strategy.
No.
I think it's a great strategy personally.
I just think that the catch should have been. The thing is, like
booth reviewed.
Well, not necessarily booth reviewed. The one ref that was on the side couldn't see. He just saw the guy pull it into his body, and it looked like a catch, but he couldn't see on the opposite side with the way the guy was landing that the ball had clearly hit the ground. The guy that was across the field on the other side of the field should have probably noticed it because they normally are pretty good about that. But again, far enough away, maybe he didn't see it either. It's possible. It wasn't like an obvious non-catch, but it does happen. That's all I'm saying. But that was pretty much the only like questionable call, and even then it's like, was that really on the refs? It was kind of a 50-50. Nah. You know? So, ultimately, I think most... And then there was also, like, Eagles fans might, like, talk about it, but, like, there was that one where the punt... the whole entire sideline claimed that the punt ended up hitting the wire, the camera wire. And in that case, they would get allowed a repunt. They took it to New York, and even New York couldn't find any proof that it actually happened. So they ended up having to leave the punt stand as was called. So unfortunately, some people were upset by that. But ultimately, didn't matter. The game wasn't going to change off of that punt. It was the Eagles punting the 49ers, and the game was already pretty much going to be done at that point anyway. So ultimately, had no effect on the game. So reffing for the most part for between the Eagles and 49ers was fine. Granted, the game wasn't going to ever be any close just because of the way that what happened to the 49ers. You know, when you end up losing your third string quarterback who ends up looking like your first string quarterback, and then you have to put in your fourth string quarterback who then gets concussed, and then you have to put back out your third string quarterback who can't feel his hand. I mean, what are you going to do, man? Like,
yeah, and it's just a thing that happens, man. The 49ers have had crap luck at quarterbacks this year.
Oh, this year, I mean, their first string goes out, then they bring in their second string goes out, they bring in their third string, who looks like a potential first string, and then all of a sudden, he gets injured, and you're bringing in, like, it's like, oh my god, like, the fact that they were able to make it as far as they did off of so many QBs is ridiculous. Also, for those people who kept being like, oh, the Kyle Shanahan system's just really good, and that's why Brock Purdy looked good. I don't know about you, but Johnson didn't exactly look great as a fourth-string quarterback in that system. Just saying. So, no.
Just saying.
It does not matter what the Kyle Shanahan system is. Brock Purdy is actually just that good.
I think he's a lot better than what you think, because he did spend 4 years in college learning to play, and I think that makes a difference.
The full 4 years versus,
Also, he didn't have to vie for his job. There wasn't a lot of competition.
No.
You know, he knew where he was on the depth chart all the time, and you know, like, I think I'm going to say this and be honest about it, much as, like...
He took his opportunity and made the most out of it, you know?
Well, these big-name schools, Alabama, LSU, Ohio State, churn out quarterbacks. I don't know how many of them are going to be good. The problem is that, you know, how much are you looking over your shoulder at the guy behind you and blah, 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 and everything else? And are you going to get passed over? And how many years are you actually going to get to play? And Purdy played as a starter pretty much all 4 years at Iowa State.
Yeah.
I know he started for 3. And, you know, I'm going to be honest. I think that helped him. I think stuff like that is more helpful than going to a big school that has a lot of connections.
Now, obviously, there are certain times where that's not necessarily true. I mean, there are outliers when you talk about that. For example, Joe Burrow with LSU. He played, I think, 2 years for sure. I thought it was 3, but I know for sure 2. He originally was at a different school and transferred to LSU, to be fair.
I think he was at Ohio State.
Yeah, he was. And then he knew he wasn't going to play because he would have been behind... Who was it at Ohio at the time? It wasn't.
I don't remember.
It wasn't Fields. Who was it? It was one
of
other.
The guy before Fields.
Yeah, I forget who it was. Obviously, he must not have made the league very long. Or it's a guy that we just don't remember. Yeah, ultimately, he ended up transferring to LSU. Played 2 years for sure. And just played out of his mind. Both years that he ended up playing. And he knew that there was no way they were ever going to move off of him, like, in that point. Like, he just knew, right? So, there are exceptions to that rule where you just look at a QB. Or Trevor Lawrence, right? I think he played, actually...
I think he did
all 4 years?
4
I think
years?
he did 3 for sure. I thought he did 4, though.
3 for sure for Clemson.
I think
he might have gone all 4.
I think he went all 4 with Clemson, and that's a rare one too, right? That doesn't.
No, that's a rare gem though, but you don't see that normally at the big power schools.
Exactly. And Clemson is
so that's why you know what, if you're not sure that you have everything to be the starter all the time, and you're not going to be able to unseat the guy that's currently there, go to a smaller school, play.
Go to a smaller school and play.
You know what?
And do
get
it well.
in the game and play.
And do it well. And if you do it well, you'll get drafted. I mean, proof in the pudding. Lance, NDSU, drafted 2nd overall. NDSU is not a big school. They're the biggest in their division, but it's not a big power name school.
Oh, and I'm also going to point out, you've got Brock Purdy, who was Mr. Irrelevant, who was drafted in the 7th round, but look at him now.
Came from Ohio, yeah.
Yeah.
Or you can even look at, let's be honest, you can look at even Allen. He came from Wyoming. I mean, they're not a big school. But he played amazingly when he was there, and that was enough to make people go, "Oh, look at that kid over there."
Here's the other funny one. Russell Wilson, he did not start at Wisconsin.
No, he didn't.
He transferred to Wisconsin, but he had been playing at NCSU, North Carolina State. He was a member of the Wolfpack there before he transferred to Wisconsin for a single season, so that I think he could get on more draft radar.
Yeah,
I think that's what that was about. But I mean, you look at a guy like, I think Phillip Rivers also came out of North Carolina State.
In a lot of cases, it's actually very recommended to go to a smaller school, build up your name, transfer for maybe 1 year to a big school if you can, and then try to have like one big year to be on national TV, right? And that's kind of the play that people are supposed to do.
Yeah.
And it makes
100%.
sense. And it makes sense to do.
But yeah, the Eagles punched their card. They're headed to the big dance.
They are. I think if the 49ers didn't end up getting injured in that game, if Brock Purdy ends up being in the full game,
I think it's going to be a much tighter game.
It's going to be tighter, more interesting, unfortunately.
I do.
Yeah. The game was pretty much done within the first quarter at that point, and I noticed.
Yeah,
I sent you the text right away, like even when I saw it, I was like, "Oh, that's
being a pretty boring game." Yeah. I didn't even watch it. I was busy with other things that
wasn't worth the watch.
I did watch this one though, sadly, and I was a little upset at this one. Bengals at Chiefs. The Chiefs win. We both picked the Bengals to win.
Now I want to make it very clear to people: we are not upset that the Chiefs won. We're not upset that the Bengals lost the game. That is not the reason. Like, oh my God, my record! You're just mad because you predicted wrong. No, if you look at all of our past predictions, it just is what it is.
It is what it is. In this case, we're mad because it looks like the league and the refs gifted the game to the Chiefs, especially in the second half.
Particularly in the second half, yeah.
If you look at, there's a couple of penalties we want to highlight. I want to highlight them anyway. First off, the clock. What the fuck was that? You let them run an entire play and then said, no, the game should never have started. Well, then why did you blow a whistle?
Yeah.
Did you not communicate with each other? What the fuck is going on? Do you not have radios? Can you not run on the field and go, no?
I like how there was like one guy who was trying to cancel the play that was like a line judge, like 30 yards back, who moved 5 yards
back.
He made 5 yards forward, and then the play just ran, and he stopped moving. It's just like, all right, I guess the player's gonna run. He didn't continue running and going, wait, like he.
Yeah, no, and he didn't even. The head judge didn't know what was going on. No. Nothing. So like, I fully
they gave him a free extra down, which is just ridiculous.
Exactly. That Cruz total issue. Then right after that, there was a defensive holding call on a pass play, and even because they have one of the guys who used to run the officials or whatever in the booth at CBS, who like they can throw to and go, "What did you see there?" And he was like, "Normally, when you do defensive holding, you want to see them turn the offensive player. I didn't see a turn there."
No, I didn't see enough of a turn.
There was no reason to call that as a defensive holding call.
Terrible.
There was no PI. That was nothing. He was going for the ball.
Actually, I think it was a PI call.
That was an awful, abysmal, terrible call.
Yeah, that was a terrible call.
There were so many of those. They literally ran extra plays for the Chiefs. They gave everything they could to them. The only call that I absolved them of, and I know people are going to get mad at me for it. Unnecessary roughness. That was clearly fucking unnecessary at the end of the game.
Oh, at the end of the game. I mean, he stepped out of bounds. The guy, like, here's the one thing I said about it is it was one of those situations where I could tell by watching it that the guy that pushed Mahomes at the end, he did lose his balance a little bit, but at the same time, you did push him. You pushed him hard enough to make him fall down. He was out of bounds. It was going to get called.
Yeah, and the way that you can avoid that, if you're going to fall, fucking throw your hands up and fucking fall.
Yeah.
It's going to suck. You might get hurt, but you're not going to get the penalty. Exactly. So you have to determine at that point what's more important to you, that penalty or potentially being hurt.
Grass.
If you get potentially hurt, whatever. You know what? At least you didn't cost your team because maybe you hold them at that point.
Now, here's what I'm going to say about that. People are going to be like, yeah, but that's what got them in the field goal range, blah, blah. Okay, here's one thing I want to address before we even get to that point. First off, they were pretty close to getting the field goal range at that point anyways. They would have only had to run like a play or two, and they likely would have gotten it. However, they should never have been that close to begin with, because on that fucking punt kick, they had downed him pretty much at the 25, way into their own zone, and the runner ended up running it back, I think, close to 20 to 30 yards to get him into midfield.
There was a hold there.
There was a massive hold on the side of the field he ran on. Two guys were holding one defender, blatant as fuck, with a ref right there on the side, watching it happen, with the special teams coordinator of the Bengals looking at it going, "Why are you not calling that?" while the runner runs past them. I'm sorry, that was the most blatant one that I saw, where the ref clearly 100%. Saw it and didn't call it.
100%. What do you do about that point?
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do.
It got caught by the TV cameras. Like, when the TV cameras can catch it because the runner is on that side of the ball, you done fucked up.
Well, and it's not the only ref group that's fucked up something that was blatantly obvious.
Yeah.
This week. I mean, yeah, we're talking about football, but in basketball, final shot of the game, Braun was fouled, blatantly fouled, and then Pat Bev showed a dude on the camera where he got fouled, and they gave him a tech.
Yeah, exactly.
That was some bullshit too. But it's not just the NFL officials; it's officials in every league. As long as you have human interaction and human parts of it, you're gonna have these kind of fuck ups. But
yeah.
If it's that blatant, guys, you got to be able to reverse a call. You got to go back and go, nope, there was a hold on that. You got to be able to allow that to be looked at or challenged or something, because that changed the entire complexion of the game.
Yeah.
They're not in field goal range without that.
They're not in field goal range without that. They only have 40 seconds on the clock. That potentially makes the game go into OT, and instead you literally gave the game to the Chiefs.
100%. 100%.
I hate to say it, but they did.
That was egregious. There were so many officiating errors in the second half. Honestly, I would disband that officiating crew.
Yeah, that was awful.
I would make them go play with other groups. And whoever that head judge is, he no longer gets to be a head judge. He has no fucking clue how to control his men.
If I was Zach Taylor at that point, I would have a hard time holding my tongue against the refs and just getting fined into oblivion, because
Zach Taylor is a pretty cool customer. If I'm the owner of the Bengals,
if you noticed him though several times, like throughout the entire second half, he was just screaming. Like, I have not seen Zach Taylor like full on screaming the way he was, but he was just full on screaming at the refs, going, "What is going on?"
No, he was mad. Like, I've never seen him that mad.
Yeah.
But if I'm the owner of the Bengals, I'm filing a grievance with the league.
Oh, 100%.
About that officiating crew. 100%.
That was awful. That was
terrible.
Awful.
That was terrible.
And
100%
and like
terrible.
I said, I would have a hard time holding my tongue.
What makes it worse is not that the officiating was bad. It's that if there is any punishment for these refs, there's no transparency, and we have no idea.
And that's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to forward it on to, is that I think that I'm actually going. I realize I know I'm not quite backtracking fully here, but I am going back to Joey Bosa's point. As much as I think in his case, like, what happened in that case wasn't necessarily all on the refs. He got frustrated, but what his point was, I still agree, is there is no accountability that we see as players or as viewers to when shit fucks up like this. There is no accountability that we see. We have no idea if these refs are being held accountable for their mistakes at all. And even if they are, the NFL could be like, "But we are." Well, prove it. Show me that there's accountability. We have to know that there's accountability, that there is, when in any other job you make these kind of fuck-ups, and you're going to be held accountable for your mistakes. You need to prove to us that these people are being held accountable, because otherwise it's hard to not look at it and go, "Oh, you're scripting the NFL," or "Oh, you're purposely rigging games for the NFL for viewership," or "You're purposely doing that," or "purposely doing this." If there's no accountability, it makes it that much harder for people to really buy into your system. And eventually you're going to lose fans, because people are going to get tired of dealing with games where you're going, "Oh, that looks rigged," all the time.
Yeah, and in if you have some sort of at least transparency and accountability with your refs, I can understand that the refs may not 100% like that because now they're being held accountable. But as long as you have it, and as long as you have a way for the fans to be able to see that these kinds of mistakes are not tolerated, oh yes, we've suspended that reffing crew for a game, so they're not going to get paid. All right, fine. Now we know they screwed up. We're now, as fans, we can say, okay, that's okay. We know that you've realized that this was a bad crew and they're being retrained. Exactly. That is 100. That's all you really need to do. But until you do that, you're going to have fans that think your product is now controlled by Vegas and rigged. 100%. It's just going to happen. We hate to be that guy, but there it is. So yeah, that's kind of our thoughts about the Bengals and Chiefs game. I think it was a very exciting game to watch.
For the most part, yeah.
But the refs kind of took me out of it. Like, they broke my immersion in that game, and that kind of upsets me a little bit. Before we move on, I do want to bring something up that I saw in our comments. We had one guy who commented, finally. We've actually had 2 comments that I can see that are fun. One of them is a friend of mine, so I know who she is. Hello! She knows who she is. She'll probably get a kick out of that. The other one is a gentleman who goes by the name of Oktoberfest. And I saw your comment the other day, and I wanted to be able to respond to you. And I could have just logged in and talked to you, but I felt like this would be kind of neater for you, if nothing else. He asked if we had thought about perhaps playing video games that were sports video games and comparing them to the actual sports. I hate to tell you guys, but neither of us play sports. We are not the people to talk to about that. We have no idea how they would compare to the actual sport. Now, could we play video games and compare playing them to what it's like to watch them? We could. That's something that we may look into. But actually what the sport is like, you are asking the wrong people, my man. I hate to say that.
We're a sports podcast show. Like, there are plenty of YouTubers out there who play sports games, that do sports games. I mean, there's one guy called Bangle on YouTube that I love watching. He does big sports. He does rebuilds. He talks more about in depth.
Jesse Blake.
Yep.
From the SDPN, he does NHL 23.
Yeah.
He does rebuilds and he does be a GM. Like he gives himself so many years to try to win a cup with a team.
There's plenty of
rebuild.
There's plenty of people who do that kind of stuff already. There's a reason why I don't want to go into that field, because it's so saturated. There's a lot of people that do it. There's a lot of people who do it very well.
We aren't those people.
I enjoy playing sports video games. I'm not good at them.
I enjoy playing sports video games. I am also not good at them. Like, I don't play on all Madden.
No. The only thing that I would have fun with if they bring it back is being able to do like an offline franchise league with multiple people. Like, or not necessarily
something
offline,
like that.
but
like even if it was online, like not head to head, but like where multiple people could log into the franchise thing and everybody could pick a team, and then you could
That's what I'm saying.
So much time to play a team, etc.
Where you and I could go up against each other building teams, and then just have the CPU
you might have
play
to go up
against
each other on occasion.
Yeah,
like, and maybe it would be fun.
And maybe do it as like, instead of us actually playing, it's just our players playing based upon what games
like sim the games.
Yeah. I think that would be maybe possibly entertaining, maybe fun, if that's something that people want, where we try to build teams and not play the game and just let the game play itself. Maybe that's something we can do, and then just kind of figure out which one of us would be a better GM.
Yeah, kind of like a GM thing.
Yeah.
That would be interesting, if nothing else.
That would be interesting. If people want that, I'd be down for trying that. But as far as actually playing the games, I'm sorry, you might have to find somebody else.
but we do appreciate the suggestion. Keep coming with ideas.
Yeah.
We do like the fan interaction. That's the first real fan interaction
the real
we've
fan
had.
Woo!
So we have a fan interaction.
Yeah, exactly.
But I wanted to bring that up because I thought you would get a chuckle out of it, if nothing else, and I thought we could respond to that gentleman in person to show that we actually do read the comments and do actually
what, we read comments? No way.
Well, and I get it, as you get 1,000+ subscribers, it's going to be hard to keep up with the comments.
It can be, yeah, for sure.
100% I get where that comes from, but no, we do want to let you know that we saw that and we appreciate that idea. All right, so do we want to do a Super Bowl prediction? I know it's several weeks down the road, but do we want to give one now?
I mean, we both know what we're gonna pick.
I think we do.
I guess we can talk about it, but there's not gonna be a lot of discussion on it.
There isn't. I think we're both going to pick the Eagles.
Yeah.
I think we're both really upset. We're not now. Again, we need to be clear. We're not mad at Kansas City for making the game.
Yeah.
We're mad at the league for handing Kansas City the game.
Yeah.
I think the Eagles are going to. I want the Eagles to beat the pants off them.
I want the Eagles to win mostly just because it's not necessarily that I'm mad at Kansas City and people will be like, but it feels like you are. And to be fair, I can understand how that comes across. The only reason I want the Eagles to win is just because I don't feel like Kansas City should be in that position because they got gifted the win. And so because of that, I don't
feel like they deserve the position they're in.
Yeah.
Had the officiating been better and the game still played out as it did, I might actually be on Kansas City's side because I really don't like Philadelphia.
Exactly. But it just doesn't feel like they earned it, and because of that, I want.
But I might still pick Philadelphia just because I want to stick one in Skip Bayless's paw.
Fair.
I have a Schadenfreude thing where I like seeing him upset.
That makes sense. Yeah, no, and to be frank with it, even if I was being trying to be as objective as possible, I just think the Eagles in general are a better team right now, and on top of that, they're not dealing with as many injuries as Kansas City is going to be dealing with. You know, even if Mahomes is almost fully there, I still don't think he's going to be able to run as well as he's going to be.
That ankle is going to be sore as...
Yeah.
Like, you could see it. So we'll talk about a little bit of that in-game balls, but...
Yeah, you could tell towards the end of the game he was definitely very sore. And that was before... Now, mind you, before the call against him with the unnecessary roughness, he was already limping before that even, so...
Oh, yeah, 100%. He wasn't feeling very well at all.
No.
You could definitively tell that he was kind of out of it by that point in time.
Yeah.
He felt pretty shitty.
Yeah.
We'll see how all of that goes.
I
said, I think the Eagles have got a good shot at it.
Yeah. So even if I'm trying to look at it objectively, I still think Eagles end up ultimately taking it just because of that.
Yeah. Now, two things that I want to point out. First off, I like the idea that it's Kelsey versus Kelsey. Two brothers playing against each other on the field in the Super Bowl. We've already had two brothers that are coaches coaching against each other in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's true.
The one thing that I'm mad at, because I feel like I get what they're trying to do, but it is still dividing people, and I disagree with it. So the NFL is pushing this as the first time that two teams quarterbacked by black quarterbacks are starting in the Super Bowl. And you know what? I hate that narrative.
It's a terrible narrative.
It is a terrible narrative. And this isn't because I want to... How do I say this? This is not because I want to downplay the accomplishments that they have.
No, they're very good individuals. Yeah.
Exactly. But I think that... And I get that not a lot of black quarterbacks have been in the Super Bowl, and I get that it was not a common thing even 10 years ago. Yeah. It has become a more prevalent thing, and I think that is a very good thing for the sport and for the world in general. But I think at a certain point, and I am the wrong person to be saying this, to be completely honest.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Somebody has to say it at some point, and it's... At a certain point, we have to stop worrying about the color of anybody's skin, and we just have to judge them by their talent.
Exactly, and that's where I was going to come across, is that I understand that they want to paint the picture that look how inclusive we are.
And that's the problem.
Well, and here's the thing, like, even if you look back 10 years ago, there wasn't that many black quarterbacks. Well, Dante Culpepper was a black quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings back in the early 2000s. We had Michael Vick, who was huge as a black quarterback in the NFL. You had Deshaun Watson, even before people were accusing him of all this shit, was considered one of the best to play the game as a black quarterback. I'm just saying, to say that these people didn't exist is ridiculous, and some of them have actually been considered the top of their field outside of injuries.
Steve McNair.
Yeah, exactly.
Warren Moon. But what
Now-
the point is...
Now, I know they're saying it's because they didn't make it to the Super Bowl, and that it's the first time that two black quarterbacks have played against each other in the Super Bowl. It could have easily happened before, is all I'm saying. It could have. There was plenty of opportunities for it to happen in the past.
Donovan McNabb.
Yeah, exactly. Donovan McNabb was another one, right? There were plenty of opportunities where it could have happened previously. It just didn't end up working out that way. But now it feels like you're only pushing the narrative just because it's politics. It's social politics. It makes it sound good. And
Well, I'm going to say that even 10 years ago, what we're looking at isn't that there weren't any.
Yeah.
It's that the majority of quarterbacks were not black, they were white.
No,
now
I
you
agree.
look around the league and you see variety. There are a schmuckload of black quarterbacks.
I'm not saying that there wasn't a majority that were white. I'm saying that even the black quarterbacks that were in the league were some of the best quarterbacks in the league, even at that time.
Is that in order to be in the league at that point and be a black quarterback, you had to be one of the best.
Yeah.
And if you looked around the league and you looked at some of the white quarterbacks, you went, "You're a second stringer at best. Why are you starting?"
Yeah.
But that's kind of, I think, what the argument is. But I think to push the narrative that the NFL is pushing with this is disingenuous.
Yeah.
And I disagree with it.
And on top
I
of
would
that,
rather take and look at these two young black men and here's their stats and their narrative and how good they are. Don't try to push that it's, oh, look how inclusive we are. Screw that.
No.
These are two young men who deserve to stand on their own merits.
How about
they
we
do
stop...
not need to be defined by the color of their skin. You can say they're two young black quarterbacks. And you could even come out and say, hey, look at this new crop of if you wanted to do it that way, but you could highlight all of them because you still got Geno Smith, you've got Lamar, you've got Deshaun, even, I don't know how much you want to highlight him, but the point is Kyler Murray. There are plenty of
Justin
young,
Fields.
up and coming black quarterback. Justin Fields, exactly.
Jordan Love.
Yeah, Jordan
Trey
Love.
Lance.
You've got what's his name down in that might potentially be good.
Dak Prescott.
I don't know if Desmond Ridder is or not, but
I think he's Hawaiian, but he's definitely colored, right? He's not white.
And you've got Tua, who's an Islander, and you've got you can show, hey, look at how much diversity is in our league now by doing
Malik Willis,
rather.
I mean, you have so many.
I was going to say Malik Willis, who could potentially wind up being really good.
Like I said, Trey Lance.
You can show that as being, hey, look at how many of these young quarterbacks are up and coming, and we've got such diversity now, whereas 10 years ago, look at all the white people we had. It looked like a cheesecake.
And here's the other thing.
I 100% get what you're trying to do, but you're doing it wrong.
And to be fair, I'm going to make this argument to be fair. To the NFL when it was 10 years ago, you can't lay the blame solely at the NFL even, because you also have to look at colleges.
No, you have to lay it at the college levels, yeah. Because you weren't getting a lot of quarterbacks in college who were black.
Exactly. And especially at the big prestigious schools.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying that it didn't look good from their angle either.
No, it did. So trying to lay all the blame at one organization or another is not acceptable.
No.
But the narrative they're trying to push now is I agree, it's social politics run amok. I am all for equality, but in my opinion, and here's what I'm going to say. I'm all for equality, but you can't have equality as long as you're still trying to push a divide based on color.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say.
I am the wrong person to be saying this.
Yeah.
But it is something that needs to be said.
Yeah.
And I don't want anybody to think that I am trying to speak for them.
No.
Although somebody's going to clip this and say, look at these privileged white boys. You know what? I know that's going to happen already. I can sense your hate. It is okay. It's okay. Let your hate flow.
You're seething, bro. No, yeah,
this is something that needs to be said. And, and
I
know
think,
what? Like I said, I'm all for equality. I'm all for people wanting to have equality, because I don't 100% believe there is.
I'm just. I think the thing is, I'm just getting tired of specifically like I'll call it race baiting, but it basically the idea of that you have to make decisions, or that you're making promotional material, you're doing any of this based upon people's race.
Dog whistle.
To me, it just it comes across poorly. There's a lot of people who won't agree with that, but to me, it comes across as very disingenuous when you are when you are purposely pushing that narrative, when you yourself are pushing that kind of narrative that look how many black people we have, it makes you go, well, that feels
like Trump's comment about I have lots of black friends, or
it doesn't sound good regardless of
they're gonna hate it,
regardless if it's true or not.
Mitt Romney's binders full of women.
Yeah, regardless of it being true or not, it just doesn't come across.
It does
well.
not. It is not a good comment to make.
No, it doesn't come across well, and from my perspective, it comes across as, whenever you're making a decision or you're saying something about color, you are now taking away from what their original accomplishments were, and you're going, "Oh, they're really good for being black ones." Like it just feels wrong.
Exactly, and that is what it sounds like.
Whenever you make a decision based upon race,
bubble. Look, they're two great young quarterbacks.
Just take black out of it. They are amazing young QBs.
They are the future of the quarterback. In fact, if I were you, I would look at it and go, "Hey, are these the youngest quarterbacks that have ever faced off in a Super Bowl?" I think that's more. I
don't know if they're the youngest, but they're probably close.
Skin tone.
They're definitely pretty young. I don't know if they're the youngest to face off against each other, but they might be. I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
Youngest combined age, maybe? That would be an interesting
it's possible
statistic. I think that's more interesting than the color of their skin.
Yeah.
But, I did want to throw that out there because I do think overall that I think there's some disingenuous narratives there.
Yeah. Because, if we're
going to do... is there enough to do at Vikings Corner this week?
I do actually have some stuff I want to talk about in Vikings Corner.
Okay, do you want to do a Vikings Corner and then we'll do a hockey corner?
Yeah, let's go to,
Or do you want to do hot potatoes and Dante's first?
Do we want to do those after corner, or do we want to do those first? I think we should do those first. Let's do Dante's.
Let's do hot potatoes. All right, let's do some hot potatoes and some Dante's first.
Yeah. Since I know you already have some spicy potatoes, I don't have a lot of stuff lined up. I'll let you go first.
Okay. I'll start with my favorite one.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the Chargers are going to be playing on the Super Bowl next year?
Oh, that's too early. Too early for me to bite on that. Listen, they're great. They have a good future. The problem is that division in general, that entire AFC division is just so tough. I mean, you have to take on...
I was taking it off of Kellen Moore, though.
I know.
But if they let him do his thing...
But you have to go up against a very big up-and-coming Jacksonville team. You have to go up against an amazing Bengals team. You have to go up against the Chiefs, which will always be tough. You have to go up against the Bills, who will always be tough. You have to go up against the Broncos, which, if they have a proper resurgence with a good coach and Russell, that'll hurt. And then, depending on what the Jets do, they could legitimately be huge too. So, no, I can't. I can't bite that. I love the Chargers. But I think unless I see something that tells me otherwise, I don't think the offensive coordinator is enough to make that call.
Fair enough.
I think they'll.
But like I said, that's a spicy shot.
Yeah, I think they have a chance to make divisional round, potentially conference championship. But Super Bowl, that's a hard one.
Gotcha.
That's a hard one. Let me see here. Which one do I want to do? All right, I got one. Maybe the Bears are still gonna fuck it up, even though they had the first overall pick. It's the Bears, man. Maybe they'll still fuck up. It's the Bears. It's hard to trust the Bears organization.
They have a whole new management crew in there.
I know, but again, it's kind of like the Bears are gonna bear, kind of like the Chargers are gonna Charger. Like, even when they're in a winning position where they can either trade Justin Fields, trade the first round pick, or pick something, it still feels like they're going to find a way to fuck it up.
That's possible. I'll eat it plain because Bear's going to bear sometimes. But I really don't think so, but I never count out the possibility. And if you say maybe... Yeah, maybe. The Bears are gonna do something dumb because they always do on occasion, and you just gotta look at it and go, ugh.
There's a reason why the organization hasn't been good for like 20 years.
Like, if they do this right, they're gonna spring to the top of the division.
Oh, 100%.
Within the next 5 years, they're gonna be, stomping people. It'll be
Oh,
the
yeah.
Bears and the Lions on the top with us going.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I could see them screwing it up. I could also see them hitting it out of the park.
We'll see. We'll see.
Maybe Tampa Bay should just go for a full rebuild.
Should they go for a full rebuild?
All right.
So to answer the question on
Full rebuild.
full rebuild with the Bucks.
Like when I say full rebuild, let me be clear. Levante David is a free agent. Get rid of him. Trade off Mike Evans. Trade anything that has any value.
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Empty completely out.
No, I'm not going to eat that only because I think that if they get a QB in free agency this year, I think they'll be fine. I don't think they need to rebuild because I think only the big thing that they're really missing, like, yeah, do they need to work a little bit on their O-line? Do they need to work a little bit on their defense? A little bit. It's not like that far gone. Like, it's not as far gone as, like, say, the Packers. Okay? So I think that all they really need is like 1 or 2, 3 maybe pieces to be like really good again, and one of them's QB. So as long as they can get another big franchise QB or somehow manage to get a high draft pick and get a future QB, I think they'll be fine. So I don't think they need to rebuild. Maybe the Washington Commanders are going to win their division next year.
Nope. I'm gonna pass that one straight off because you still got the Eagles.
The only reason I bring it up is because it looks like there's a pretty good chance that the owner, Dan Snyder, is finally going to sell the Commanders, which is big. And then as far as you look at that defense, Ron Rivera has done a very good job at building a very, very solid defense with the Commanders. Their offense has some weapons. All they need is a really good QB over there. Frankly, if they ended up getting like an Aaron Rodgers or something like that, not like it would happen because they're NFC, but I'm saying like something like that, or if they got like Derek Carr, or if they got Tom Brady, or if they got a good like a Lamar Jackson or something like that. All I'm saying is that I think they're a lot closer to being very, very good than people expect.
No, I think they are, but I don't think it'll be next year.
I understand that. I'm just saying that if they ended up getting one of those QBs in free agency,
it'll be in a couple of years, within the next 5, I'll say. Okay. Within the next 3 to 5 years, I think them and Philadelphia are going to be battling for the top of that division.
Yeah, very, very likely.
And I think the Giants will. I think the Cowboys are going to fall off because they just don't have. Like, they've got a decent defense, and they've got, one of the most transcendent and fantastic defensive players in Micah Parsons that we've seen in a long time. But their offense is just falling apart. Their line has come apart at the seams. Yep. Zeke is definitely not the same guy. Pollard may never be the same running back again. Dak is not a great quarterback. You've got one wide receiver that anybody likes with CeeDee Lamb. You don't have a tight end that anybody trusts.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of problems in Dallasville.
Yep.
And
so don't get me wrong.
If you traded off Amari Cooper, you should have gotten way more for Amari Cooper than you did. Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. I realize that was a spicy potato and that might be too early for that, but I still think that
it's a little too early for that.
But I still think they're not.
I could see it happening eventually, but not next year. No.
If they ended up getting, like I said, one of the free agent QBs or something, maybe. But again. Yeah.
Even with Lamar, I don't think that they're going to contend right away.
Okay,
I think there's still some growing pains there.
Okay, fair enough.
I also don't think that he would wind up in Washington because I don't think he fits a Ron Rivera viewpoint.
Maybe. I don't know about that, though.
You know who would be interesting in Washington?
If you say Kirk Cousins.
No. God, why would he go back there?
I know, right? Honestly, Rodgers would be okay, but they're not going to trade him into the NFC. I think
Zach Wilson.
Oh, gross. No. Ron Rivera doesn't even want Zach Wilson.
The point is, he fits that type of quarterback that Ron would want. And maybe you get let's put it this way.
I think a Derek Carr would make more sense because you already got
Derek a little bit, but
because he's not going to move around a little bit. He's going to be
Zach
protected.
Wilson, and it's this change of scenery because you need to get him out of New York, and he goes somewhere else and he winds up being good.
And who knows, that third stringer that they put in for that one game looked pretty decent. If he ends up,
Yeah, he wasn't bad.
if he ends up turning up and ends up being really good, who knows? That's possible
Yeah,
too.
but that's interesting.
Yeah.
My last one is kind of interesting, and I don't know how you're gonna feel about it. But we'll see. Maybe Sean Payton should just sit out another year.
If he's already ruled out the Broncos and doesn't want to go to the Broncos because he's worried about a power struggle, and he doesn't have faith in the Texans, I wouldn't take the Cardinals job if I was him, to be completely honest. Unless he somehow sees something in that org or in the GM or in Kyler Murray to otherwise persuade him, I would say, yeah, I'll eat that. I think it won't be like loaded up. It won't be like an obvious, like, yeah. But if the Broncos job he's too worried about, he doesn't have faith in Texans, I wouldn't want the Cardinals job unless he gets enticed. I think that, a baked potato with a little bit of like butter or something like on that, little salt and pepper, very minor. Yeah, sure. Yeah. I could see that. Yeah. It makes sense to me, but we'll see what he thinks. All right. For my final one. Maybe Sean McVay should have just retired out of the Rams rather than coming back. Like, you look at that team, and there's what is he gonna be able to do with it, man?
You know what? I will eat that with, again, little butter, little salt, little pepper on it. Nothing fully loaded. Yeah. But no, like, he's got young kids. I think maybe he should just walk away. I mean, you're a great coach, but I think the grind is going to wear you down. I think you should go into broadcasting for a couple of years, let your kids grow up, be around a lot more for them, and then once they get older, you can get back into coaching.
And on top of that, like I said, like, what's enticing you to come back, man? Like, what possibly does that roster have?
You've already won a Super Bowl trophy.
You won the Super Bowl, and what is that roster doing for you right now, man? Like, it's not like you have another Super Bowl winning roster there. Sure, you got Matthew Stafford still, and I know that you wanted to bring him aboard in the first place, which is why he came over. But you look at the rest of the roster, I mean, there's some good pieces there, but there's a lot of not good pieces.
Yeah, 100%. No, like I said, not 100% on board with that, but I'll eat it with a little butter and some salt.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Fair enough.
I'm okay with that. Moving to Dante's, huh?
Yep.
All right. You want me to start?
Go ahead.
The refs, especially from the Bengals-Chiefs game. You're in the first circle. Fuck you.
I mean, I was going to save that for last, but yeah, I'm doing the same thing. We can just...
I figured you were. That's why I started there.
We don't need to elaborate any further. Go back 30 minutes, I guess. Like,
go back 30 minutes. We've been there.
We've been there already. Moving on.
Hassan Reddick. Third circle, my guy. That was a Bush League fuck play.
I agree with it. I'm not putting him in my circle only just because you also did, and I don't want to have to keep repeating. But I do agree. 49ers defense, specifically towards the end of the game. Holy fuck! You were sitting in the fifth circle, guys. You guys built up so many penalties towards the end, especially in the first half when you guys were still kind of in it towards the end of the first half. You guys built up so many penalties that let the Eagles continue to drive when they shouldn't have. Granted, the game was close at that point, but you were ultimately going to probably lose. But still, like, that was definitely a rough game for you guys.
Osafosai, seventh circle. That's the guy who actually got the penalty on Mahomes.
Yeah. That's right.
There's only the reason I'm throwing you in the seventh. I originally thought about the fifth, and I was like, nah, seventh. He's not. He already beat the shit out of himself. He did. He was very upset about it at himself for that.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not sure how much you could have stopped. You had pretty good momentum, but there are better ways to make that play that makes it look like you're not intentionally trying to beat the shit out of the other team's quarterback when he's going out of bounds.
Yeah, exactly.
And they should never have been in that situation to begin with, thanks to the refs. But you were in that situation, and it's on you not to make that kind of a penalty. Yeah. That's just a mental error. My guy, I'm sorry. You're probably beating yourself up already, but you belong there.
Yeah. Yep. That's probably true. Um, I think this happened yesterday, right? There was oh shoot, hold on, I gotta look up the names now. Give me a second.
Oh, good lord.
Yeah, I apologize. I completely forgot about this. Whoa, I just got a breaking news thing. Hold on. Oh, 49ers QB Purdy has torn UCL and elbow.
Ooh.
Proof that what we were just talking about. Proof about what we were just talking about. Shit like that causes injuries. Son Reddick, my guy, you broke a QB's arm. Well done. I hope you're proud of yourself.
That's going to up my circle on him from third to first.
I wasn't even going to put him in mine, but I disagree. I put him in my first as well. Fuck you, dude. Because that was definitely intentional. You were definitely intending to hit his arm. There's no question. You know you were doing it. Now, were you intentionally trying to break his arm? Questionable. But you definitely were trying to hurt him. To me, it looked like you were trying to hurt him.
You were trying to hurt him, yes. Maybe not trying to hurt him. You were definitely trying to stop that throw, but you knew exactly what you were doing.
Yeah. That was fucked in so many ways. So, yeah. I am, fuck you, dude. I'm not even gonna... You know, I was originally going to put in those two guys that got ejected in that game for the Eagles and 49ers. There was two guys that ended up fighting and getting ejected. I was going to put those guys in there, but you know what, Reddick? Fuck you.
Yeah, that's fair. 100% fair.
I thought so.
All right. Moving right along. Hit the showers.
Reddick, hit the fucking showers, bro.
You know what? I didn't have him in there, but yeah, no, hit the fucking showers. The refs, fucking, you need to be in there fully clothed because you deserve punishment.
Oh, God. You guys are going to get hypothermia now.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
I got one more. You want to hear it? Unless you got one?
I don't have another one off the top of my head. Go ahead.
I do. I'm sorry. You throw 2 interceptions in the biggest game down there when they call it Burrowhead. Joe, and I'm not saying it in a bad way, Joe. Go cool down.
Here's to be fair. Down. To be fair, those interceptions were. He was trying to throw into tight windows. They were mostly not his fault, and there was one that was bobbled. I think that was bobbled.
There was one that was bobbled, but I mean, come on, Joe.
If you really look at those interceptions, they're not really his fault.
You need to make better throws than that, and
yeah.
Oh, come on, man. No. Cool
or there
down.
was that.
I'm not saying it in a bad, mean way in this case, but Joe, go hit the showers, cool down, you'll be okay.
Or there was that deep ball to Jamar Chase where he hit him in the fucking head.
That was funny. I gotta admit that was
poor
funny.
Chase. The minute it happened, I bet he probably went.
You know what? Though,
son
that
of
deep
a
ball
bitch.
that he threw up to T. Higgins, who came down with that sucker in the corner of the end zone through 2 defenders. That was fucking beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like all the balls he threw were actually pretty much where they needed to be outside of.
Yeah, but you still need to go cool down because I could tell by the end of the game he was getting a little heated.
Well, to be fair, the refs didn't exactly help him with that.
No, they didn't. They didn't. And so, like I said, that's why I said, go cool down, my man. Yeah. You need to cool down.
Yeah. I don't got really anybody else.
All right. You want to do some, you said you had something for Vikings Corner. You want to do a Vikings Corner?
Yeah, I just want to bring up something. It's going to be probably pretty quick, but it is something that I noticed that got reported on. I'm actually going to pull up the, I don't know if you saw it. You might not have.
Depends on what you're talking about.
It was a former Minnesota Viking offensive guard, Alex Boone, shared his thoughts on the situation, and he flat out said, if I'm a free agent and I'm a guard, and Minnesota offers me to stay, I'm like, are you guys really rolling with Kirk again? Are you doing this? I was about him all year, but one play could really screw you up, and it would make me think twice. And further on, he says, he's not going to take you anywhere. He showed you when you check down on 4th and 8 in a playoff game, and it's going to ruin you. One bad play call can really, really piss a lot of people off. I don't know why he didn't take off. I don't know why he didn't try to extend it with every bit of ounce of might he had. Dude, it's 4th and 8. The game is on the line. This is our season. If we're going to push, it's right now. And he's got a point. If your players if you're a player in that system and you see that, to you, it looks like you stopped trying. It doesn't look like you tried to really muster up a win at the end of your season, and that can push players to be really mad. So do other players even want to play with him? Even if the GM and coach potentially look at bringing him back and extending him, what about all the other players? Remember, you said that there's a bunch of people who are going into free agency. Are they going to want to come back? Are they going to want to play with a guy who takes you to the postseason and then just
gives up? No, I 100% get where that comes from. I did see that. I didn't know that's what the one you were going with, but no, I agree. I absolutely see where that would be a problem. And how are you going to sign free agents and now, what I'll say to Boone, currently he's still under contract for another year, and there's nothing you can do about it unless you're going to eat that dead cap, which you're not going to do.
No.
So, but if you extend him again,
exactly,
you're just proving to free agents that you're just going to keep kicking this can down the road. At some point, you got to stop kicking the can and just let it happen.
Yeah. And that's where I was going to say with Boone is that, like, I actually see where he's coming from and what he's saying, which is basically, if you're a player right now looking at what just happened, yeah, a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, but it was just one play. It was one bad play all year. Well, first off, it wasn't
one bad play.
It wasn't.
Hold on. It was one bad play in a playoff game for your fucking season.
Yeah.
If that happens on week 2, it's just one bad play. If that happens on wild card weekend, 4th and 8, for your season, win or go home and sit on your couch.
Yeah.
That's where you find out what people are made out of.
And this is what I was going to say is it's not just one bad play. He made other bad plays throughout the season. This one's just getting highlighted because it isn't just one bad play. It is a play that rides on the rest of your season. And it means more than just one play. This is not just for the game. This is for your future going forward. Mm-hmm. Like, a lot of people are just trying to downplay it. Listen, you don't downplay things in the playoffs. This is important. This matters. It's not like it was like early. It's not like this play was early in the playoff game and he just made a bad mistake early in the playoff game. No, this literally determined if they win or lose. Period. Dead stop.
Exactly. And like I said, I cannot disagree with any of that. I am very upset with everything that happened with Kirk.
And a lot of players are going to be very upset by that. They are.
And that's why I think
especially the defense who actually managed to stop them, force them to punt, and give you one last chance. They played their heart out to give you one last chance, and that's how you repay your defense. That's not going to make them happy.
No, it's not. And I think Kirk is going to have issues. I think they're going to have issues signing free agents because of that.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So moving into Hockey Corner then. Today I wanted to highlight, as I said, I want to highlight a team that's in the middle of a rebuild.
Okay.
They have been rebuilding for a couple of years now, but I wanted to talk about it from an outside perspective, and I want to look in on it. Today we are going to talk about the Arizona Coyotes. HOWL. Okay. Currently, unlike a lot of teams who are pushing the cap ceiling, the Arizona Coyotes are projected to have currently have, according to Cap Friendly, $18 million in cap space. They're struggling just to hit the floor at this point.
Fair enough.
Let's talk about why this is a rebuild. Draft picks. In 2023, they have a first, a second, 2/3, a fourth, a fifth, and a sixth.
Okay.
In 2024, they have a first, 3 seconds, 4/3, 2/4, a fifth, a sixth, and 2/7. In 2025, they have a first, 4 seconds, a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, and a seventh. And it's probably going to grow on all counts because there is at least one guy that is probably going to leave their roster, and we'll talk about him in a minute.
Gotcha.
But that's a lot of draft capital. You've got a lot of picks.
That is a lot.
Which is why it's a rebuild. Because in a rebuild, so in hockey, a rebuild is empty out and get absolutely as much young talent and up-and-coming people and draft picks as you possibly can. Because the idea in hockey, we need to talk about this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
everything after about the first 5 picks has about the same. There's like you've got your first 5 picks, and then there's kind of everything else. And your chances of hitting between pick 12 and 22 are pretty much the same thing. So the more picks you have, or between 22 and 42, they're about the same. So more picks equals a higher chance to hit on those picks. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Increase your odds. So currently, they have the guys that I wanted to highlight right now. The 3 of these guys, I think, are going to stick around. They're signed up to long-term deals. Well, one of them isn't. Well, actually, most of them are, to be honest. I think the last 2 I talk about are going to be on their way, and then I'm going to highlight 2 young men that are on their way up into the system. So Clayton Keller, he's played 50 games this year. He has 18 goals and 23 assists for 41 points. He's unquestionably the star on that team right now. He makes $7.15 million, and he's signed up through 2027, 2028. And he is currently only 24 years old.
Gotcha.
So, Nick Schmaltz, he's, because of injury, has only managed to play 34 games this year. But in those 34 games, he has 11 goals and 17 points for 17 assists for 28 points. He signed up at $5.85 million through 2025-26, and he is 26. And Lawson Krause, who's played 45 games, he has 16 goals and 12 assists for 28 points. So he's just over half a point a game. He signed up at $4.3 million through 26-27, and he's only 25. So those are the young guns. Those are quite obviously where the future is currently.
Right.
On defense, you have Jakub Chikrin. In 34 games this year, due to injury, he has 5 goals and 20 assists for 25 points. He makes $4.6 million through 24-25, and he's only 24. There's a good chance that Jakub Chikrin gets moved at the trade deadline.
Gotcha.
It's been talked about for forever at this point, that Chikrin's going to get traded. And I think this is going to happen. He's worth... You're not going to be able to re-sign him. Yes, you have him until 24-25, but he's too good to be on your team right now. You have a lot of talent on the way up. Just get the draft capital for him. It's going to be worth more. That is, I think, what they're looking at. And Shane Gostisbehere. Love that name. Ghost. Played 48 games this year. He has 9 goals and 20 assists for 29 points from the blue line. He makes $4.5 million, and after the season, he's a free agent.
Right.
And he's 29. He's probably going to get traded as well. He's making good enough production. This would be trading while high. He'd be a rental for someone. Chances are you're not going to extend him, but you could. But I think trade him while high. I think Arizona's probably going to do that. Now, down in their system, they have Connor Geekie. He's currently playing for the Winnipeg Ice in juniors. But there, he's played 40 games. He has 20 goals and 21 assists for 41 points, just around a point a game.
Mm-hmm.
And he's 18 years old. And then you have Victor Soderstrom. He is playing in the AHL right now with the Tucson Roadrunners. He's played 40 games. He has 2 goals and 19 assists for 21 points. And he's a defenseman. And so he's also only 21 years old. They have some young talent on that team. They have a lot of cap space, and they have the ability to get more draft picks. And they have enough draft capital that if they wanted to spend some of it to get another second first round pick at any point in time, they could. I think they're also currently high enough up in losses and high enough up at the bottom of the pool, if you want to look at it that way, that they are all in on just bad for Bedard. Just tank hard for Bedard. And they are disproving of the theory that teams tank. Them and Chicago are both rapidly tanking hard. Now, here's the thing. They have a very good goaltender named Karel Vizmelka. Love him. He's too good to be on that team. I would not be surprised if he gets traded. If you really want the honest point.
Fair enough.
And they are, despite the fact that they are losing, they are in every game. They play hard. They never stop playing. The coach has them in every game.
Fair.
I 100% think that this is a team that another couple of draft picks, another couple of years, and we're going to be talking about them as cup contenders.
Fair enough.
They have new ownership. They have a new GM group, and they're trying to avoid past mistakes. For a long time, nobody's really wanted to play in Arizona. And currently, they're having trouble attracting free agents because they're playing at Arizona State University's arena. They don't have their own arena. Why don't they have their own arena right now? Well, they would have stayed where they were, but they got behind on the bills and forgot to pay certain things, and so the arena kicked them out. And they're currently they would have stayed there until the new arena that they were building is built. But at the time they got kicked out, that still hadn't passed through committee. It has now, and they are breaking ground on it. So within the next 5 years, they'll have a new arena. They'll have a new home.
Yeah, but until then,
they're playing at Arizona State University, and they can't put their logo on the center of the ice. Arizona State's has to remain there.
Oh, Jesus.
Apparently saying, though, it is a nice arena. There are good facilities there for the NHL players. Even with it being smaller, it's a more, I believe the term is intimate arena.
That would be the term, yeah.
And there are people that have gone there have said it's a really nice arena to catch a hockey game in it.
No, I'm not going to disagree with that. A lot of the college places are actually pretty good. It's just that, as far as ownership is concerned, because it is smaller, you can't fit as many people in it, which means you are limited to how much money you're getting. And on top of that, that also means concessions. Guess what? Probably the majority of it goes to the arena, which you don't own.
Oh no! But that's that's harsh.
It is.
But they do have a very nice new arena going in. Yeah. It does look like that got approved, and they will have a nice big new shiny home. And if they wind up with one of the top picks in this upcoming draft, by the time that person is playing major minutes in hockey, because who knows how long it'll take them to bring him out of the AHL, or how long they're going to want to keep him down in juniors perhaps to season him, and then bring him up into the AHL and season him a little more, and then bring him into the lineup. Potentially by the time they have a team ready to compete, they'll be moving into that new arena, and you'll have a team full of big name stars that everybody will love watching.
Right.
You'll sell it out quick. And that's a potentiality. So they are still in the middle of a rebuild. That's what a team in the middle of a rebuild looks like. They have a ton of draft capital and not a lot of players signed up past this. They've got a bunch of aging veterans on contracts that expire in the next year or two. They don't have to keep any of them. They could just keep going out and signing crappy players. Not crappy. Depth. That's the proper word. They can keep going out and signing depth players at near league minimum contracts for veterans, and just keep above the line that you need to keep above. Yeah, because there's a floor for the salary cap, how much you have to be spending on your team in roster. So they can keep, just above that, and then right as they're moving into their new building, they can make the big swing and get a bunch of good free agents to go with the young stars that they're going to get in the draft and all of this stuff. And then all of it should congeal together to make one really fun to watch team.
Fair enough.
But until then, they're going to really suck. But I did want to point them out because they do play hard. They are fun to watch when you watch them play. They play hard. They have great young pieces that are fun to watch. I think they're going to be really good in the next 3 to 5 years. I think it's inevitable that they're doing this rebuild right. It's going to be a slow, long process.
So you're saying that they were like the Texans of this year. The Texans, for the most part, were actually fun to watch this year, even though they were bad.
Sort of, but I think it's going to take them longer to get good again than it
Fair
did
enough.
will take the Texans.
Fair enough.
And honestly, I don't think the Texans are going to be great next year.
No.
But I think it's going to, because in hockey it does take a little bit longer to bring people along.
Maybe close to the Panthers. The Panthers were kind of interesting to watch this year too.
They're closer to the Panthers, yeah.
Okay.
Because the Panthers are, because the Panthers are actually really close.
I don't think so. I think they have quite a few years still left.
Yeah, but who was...
The Jets are okay, but I don't think they're that far away anymore either.
No. I'm trying to think of somebody that was like a 3 or 4 win team that you just go, ugh. You know what? They're closer to the Cardinals. They need a lot of pieces still. But with the right drafts and the right moves, within the next 5 years, you could see them as championship contenders.
They were the Lions last year.
Yes.
There we go.
They're the Lions for the last couple of years.
Yep.
And eventually they'll be, probably right around the time that their arena is built and ready for them to move into, they'll be where the Lions are at now.
Yeah.
Which is just on the cusp of competing.
Gotcha.
And I think that's going to be, at that point, you take the big swing with all of your extra cap money, and you sign up some free agents, and you get some big name people coming in, and you've got a bunch of good draft picks that are starting to round into form, and that's when you go home run, and you try to put a team on the ice that people want to come and pay and watch.
Right. Yeah. For sure.
And the big, I'll talk about it here real quick because it's the big rumor. In the next couple of years, I'd have to look. I don't know exactly when he's due. There's a player, Austin Matthews, scored 60 goals last year. So, hell of a player. Was the league MVP. Plays for Toronto. Within the next couple of years, his contract comes due. He's from Arizona.
Oh, well, fair enough.
So there's been a lot of chatter that the Coyotes are going to make a big swing for him. Whether or not he wants to go there is going to be up in the air.
By then, it's going to come down to how the org is already. How close are they to actually making a potential championship
and how
run?
close is Toronto to competing? Because if Toronto's still really close to competing, why would I want to leave somewhere that has a potential at a cup?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, if he wins a cup with Toronto like this year or next year, I could see him going back to Arizona to want to bring his home state a cup.
Exactly.
I could totally see that.
Yeah, it's possible.
But, once you've won that cup, you can kind of go and do what you want.
A little bit, yeah. You get a little bit more freedom in that way if you want.
You get a little bit more freedom at that point. But that's what I wanted to bring up in Hockey Corner. I wanted to look at the Arizona Coyotes and kind of what they look like now. I do want to, maybe next week I'll do it. I want to look at the trade market, and I want to look, because the trade deadline is coming up, I believe, in March. So we still have all of February, but I want to start breaking down potential trades, because generally just after the All-Star game, which that's this weekend, or that's coming up this weekend is the All-Star weekend. So there's the All-Star break. Right after that ends is generally when you begin to see movement.
Right.
So we're going to start getting a lot more rumors and a lot more movement. So I wanted to break it down before it all kicks off.
Right.
So
fair enough.
Hopefully next week, at the beginning of the next week, I will know enough and have enough information about potential trade individuals, who's going to move and who's not, and who's looking to sell. And
that's fair.
I want to start pawing through account rumors and shit.
Okay, for sure.
So that's where I'm going with that.
All right, fair enough. I got nothing to add to that other than fair enough. So I do want to address now that the initial news has finally come out for that Brock Purdy incident. They've written a full article here, so I just want to go over some of it because I think some of it is still important for people who might not understand. So basically, Purdy suffered a complete tear of the ulnar collateral ligament in his right elbow and will be required to undergo surgery. He is seeking a second opinion, but the initial hope is that he can undergo a repair and not a reconstruction, also commonly known as a Tommy John surgery. And if this is the case, he would be ready for training camp. So, if Purdy can have his UCL repaired and avoid reconstruction, the standard timeline for return is 6 months giving him a chance to return near the start of 2023. However, if he will need reconstruction, he will not be ready, and at best case scenario, until halfway through the season, if he ever returns. So, I'm just saying it, Hassan Reddick may have very well ruined a QB's career.
100%. Generally, Tommy John surgery goes pretty well. So
Typically, nowadays it does, yeah.
Yeah, nowadays it does. Nowadays it's not as radical as it used to be.
But this
These
isn't
days
like
that.
Yeah. I'm just saying that it's not even like a minor tear or anything like that, or a suffered tear. It's a complete tear. Like, it is bad.
Yep. And so that, I think we are eventually going to see there be rules put in place to stop that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. That is unfortunately true, but I just wanted to make it clear for people that didn't understand how bad the injury was. It's that bad. We're talking 6 months to a year of recovery, basically.
Yeah.
It's going to be really bad, and it's definitely something that I think the league has to look at and acknowledge that this is something that we want to try to avoid happening more often than not, because we've been seeing more and more players go for this kind of play in general. Eventually, it was going to come out that somebody was going to get injured really bad, and now they have to address, is this something we want to allow people to continue?
Now they have gotten injured really bad, and now they have to address that, yes.
I think they're going to have to address something if they want to. Now, it might not be this year, but I think it's even closer than what you're saying, 5 years. I think it's going to, if it's not this year, it's probably going to be addressed next year.
I would say 2 years now, yeah. With that news breaking, 2 years.
Yeah.
I know you don't have any game balls because you said all the games were shit.
They were mostly shit, and I just don't believe that anybody deserved a game ball, because even though KC ended up winning, I don't want to give them any game balls because I don't feel like they earned it. And Eagles, well, when you end up injuring the quarterback, I mean, there wasn't much of a game to happen there.
Well, and here's the thing that I'm going to say. I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But game balls, to me, they're not about the teams winning or losing. They're about individual performance.
I understand
that.
So
I'm going to throw out 3 of them because I do have 3 balls that I think deserve to be thrown out. First off, I do have 2 from Kansas City. You're going to be mad at me. I don't give a shit.
No, I don't.
Patty Mahomes, 29 of 43, 326, 2 touchdowns on a fucking high ankle sprain.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's a heroic performance. That fucking is gutsy. That's fucking tough.
Man,
that's a game ball.
It's great when the refs give you all those calls, though. It's great when the refs give you all the calls.
Scantling.
Yeah, Scantling.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
He had a couple
6 catches, 116 yards, and a touchdown. When all of the other wide receivers went out of the game, you still came through, sir.
Yeah, he had to be fair, but he did well.
From the 49ers, I didn't give anybody on the Eagles that they didn't deserve it. They looked like, their offense looked like shit. Fuck you.
Yeah, right.
But from the 49ers, 15 carries, 84 yards, a touchdown, 4 receptions, 22 yards, and 0 for 1 on passing. Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, he did try to pass it. He tried to be the hero.
Everybody else gave up in that game. Sir, kept playing.
Well, Kittle did pretty well too.
Kittle tried, yeah.
But
Christian McCaffrey, sir, kept that game alive.
He was the only one that could do anything in that first half, and it was, I mean, to be fair, he knew that the only way that the 49ers were going to succeed is if he literally threw him on his back, but they were just too heavy.
Yeah, it was too much. But you know what?
He tried.
Game ball for trying, sir.
The first half he tried, and he kept it close in the first half, but after that...
Yeah, no, but you know what? He gets a game ball for his effort. Game ball for effort, sir.
I get it. Listen,
I get where you're coming from.
I'm not mad if you give your game balls. That's the choice you decide to make. I just decided that I don't think anyone deserved it just because of the way that their officiating was done, with the way that things ended up going down. I just ultimately believe that I can't properly give game balls because the games weren't fair. And because the games weren't fair, I can't
penalize what Mahomes did based on the officiating. He didn't have a say in that. That wasn't his call.
No.
He played his ass off with that angle.
I actually disagree. I think you can penalize him for it because the refs gave you so many fucking calls that it made it so that you didn't have to play nearly to the potential that you were supposed to.
Except he's still playing to the potential that he was supposed to.
Disagree.
I think he was even better than he normally is.
Oh, I hard disagree with that. He looked nothing like his former self. He had to play.
And I think part of that is I like him better like this. Here's the thing. You're going to laugh at me. I think sometimes he's so athletic and so good that he doesn't try to stay in one spot long enough. He tries so hard to create something that I think sometimes he over tries to create something.
Yeah, I don't know if I would agree with that. The thing is here, yes, he put in a good performance when he needed to, especially, like, I'll give him credit for the last drive where he actually really pushed himself probably more than he should have to get that win. So that last drive I agree with. But most of that second half, I'm going to be honest with you, looked like shit from him. Most of his good stats came from the first half, not the second.
It did. You could tell the ankle was bothering him by the end, but the fact that he gutted through it, and then that's last just the type drive of person he where, is. He made that, where he made that fucking run for first down.
Which was really dumb, too, by the way.
Huh?
Really dumb, but admirable. Dumb.
Absolutely dumb for that ankle, but I mean, your season's on the line. What are you going to do?
I know, exactly. But that's
100%, I understand what he was thinking, which was win the game, worry about the rest of it later.
Yeah, exactly.
My guy, you're probably shortening your career a little bit, but come on now.
now, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I can't properly give him anything because while he played good enough, for Patrick Mahomes, good enough is not good enough, and you know it.
I understand where you're coming from. And Valdez-Scantling deserves, just because when everybody else fell down on receiving court, he still stepped up. Well he was like, all right, next man up, I got it.
And Travis Kelce, I'm going to be honest, did pretty good, but I don't know why he kept trying to lateral the fucking ball. That was weird.
That's why he didn't get a game ball. Those laterals were like, what the fuck are you
doing? He did it once. That was really dumb. He almost did it a second time and third time. I was like, what are you doing, Travis? Stop trying to extend the play so much, my guy. Just take the ball and go for it.
What are you trying to do? Like, I love you to death, but come on, man.
Also,
I will say that was still a good game from him, considering that
it was
2 hours before the game, he was questionable with a back injury.
Yeah. I think
didn't look like he had a back injury to me.
I think he's probably just strained it or something, and it just hurts. I'll exceed on. I'll give you the Scantling one because the Scantling is like, okay, yeah, Scantling did pretty good, and McCaffrey definitely did try to power through in the first half of that game before it was clearly over. I'll admit that those, if I had to choose, those are not bad choices. But I still ultimately just can't make it because when games feel like
I understand
they're ruined, like it's hard,
Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from on that.
I just hope that we don't have the same problem in the Super Bowl.
So, all right. Don't have anything else after that. I will say that I am working on a trade dissection that will introduce anybody who watches it to the wonderful world of New York Islander GM Mike Milbury trades. He's not their GM anymore, but he is known for wacky trades. And so I will say this in defense of Mike Milbury. The dude had an eye for talent in scouting. Like, he could draft great players. And then he would trade them away inexplicably. I don't know what his fucking problem was. So there are 2 hard and fast rules from that era of hockey. Did you make a trade with the Atlanta Thrashers? Congratulations, you won. Did you make a trade with Mike Milbury? Congratulations, you won. So when you watch it, you'll understand. And it's one of those things that results in a player. He actually moves 3 times within the dissection. He gets traded to a team, that team will trade him away, and then in the same dissection, as part of that connection, he will come back.
I'm going to trade away this player, and then I'm going to trade for him back to my team.
It's exactly what happened.
That makes no sense.
It was a goalie.
It still doesn't make sense.
You'll see. It's pretty funny. I mean, the player in question, after he got traded away, he did play close to, or I think he actually played in some finals for the team he gets traded to, but then he literally says this into a mic. My contract sucks.
Yeah, I'm really good, but I hate my contract.
That's exactly what he said, and that's why he got traded away again. We'll talk about that. That's anybody who knows anything about hockey and is a fan of a specific team will know exactly who I'm talking about.
I feel like I've heard of that, but I don't remember who it was. But I feel like I've heard that before.
You'll find out. I'll tell you when we're off air.
Like, you have to have some big cojones to just be like, hey, yeah, my contract sucks.
You know, he straight up said it into a live mic at a press conference.
You have to have some big ass cojones for that.
One. I think it's going to be fun. And then the next NFL one I have lined up, which is after that, we're going to talk about what happens when a team trades every single draft pick it owns in a single year plus 2 in future drafts for one player to move up 7 spots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds sounds really dumb.
Yeah, kind of is. Kind of was. And then we're going to talk about the one after that. It's going to be another NBA one. We're going to talk about what happens when you have 2 superstars that no longer get along and one of them has to be traded.
That happens all too often in the NBA.
Exactly. And I could be talking about any number of trades.
That's the problem.
We're going to talk about one of them, and I think you guys will find it interesting. Other than that, do you have anything else?
Nope.
Don't forget, if you like what we do here and you want to support us, please give us a subscribe, give us a thumbs up, smash like, turn on your notifications so that you know when we post. We are the Bearded Brothers. You have listened to yet another sports podcast. I am Matt.
I'm Chris.
And we are out.